from the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the SMOAK Show. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the SMOAK Show on 365 Sports with David SMOAK and Craig SMOAK.
And good afternoon on this Wednesday afternoon. Beautiful day wherever we are in the middle of Texas. I'm not sure about where you are, but hope you're having a great day. Craig SMOAK, David SMOAK, the SMOAK Show on 365 Sports. Rez, I saw Houston, I saw Andrew, I saw Garrett, and I think Logan might be out today, but all of them at some points are a part of what we do. Craig, there's a lot going on. The SEC started their media spring days. I'm getting that mixed up. Spring days Sunday. Big 12 started today. Nothing earth-shattering. Basketball news maybe, but for the most part, there's still a lot of lingering shrapnel from the SEC, and we will get to the news on a bill that is being sent to the House of Representatives and kind of break that down too.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's a pretty big deal that's been put together by Cruz and Cantwell, and I know we've talked a great deal about government intervention into college sports and trying to establish rules and things of that nature. And it seems like they've taken a pretty notable step in that direction. Long ways to go from anything becoming finalized, but some very notable parts of their plan that I think are of interest and we can break down point by point. So I think, yeah, that's obviously what most people are talking about today. There's still some, quotes coming out of SEC media days, and what's up, chat? What's up, everybody out there? Hope you're having a good one. But I think what Cruz and Cantwell have put out there as far as their bipartisan college sports bill is pretty heavy news. Definitely the headline of the day, and something that still is, like I said, months away from being real or even getting past. There's a lot, I think, to kind of go over as far as that goes over these few months. But I've seen, some of the quotes talking about the breakaway of the SEC coming out of their media days, which I just find to be kind of humorous. I know Kirby Smart touched on it and actually promoted the idea of it. And I saw, I think he might have been the Georgia president. Maybe I'm confusing him with somebody else, but
no, it's him.
Saying that Moorhead, that basically, and I think this quote was out there yesterday, but we didn't really touch on it, but the idea of a super league and the ratings for the SEC championship are incredibly high. Can you imagine what they would be if they were for the national championship? I think they'd be lower because I don't think anybody outside of your fan bases are buying that would be the national championship game. So I've kind of had to side-eye some of the SEC quotes about from the Georgia perspective, at least, because they really seem ultra confident that they could just break away as the SEC and just live life and be their own league and just thrive. And I have serious doubts about that. I have no doubts they could definitely function, but the idea that they would just go be college football, I find to be utter BS. So that's been interesting to see that kind of talk just keep swirling around. But yeah, the Cantwell Cruz news is what most people are talking about today.
All right, we're going to get to that. Big 12 in Frisco and the SEC with some, I guess you could say, overflow from yesterday. I remember even 15 or 30 years ago when I was talking about college football, how there's no way I will not recognize a team because they're like two conferences. You got to have, to be a national champion, you have to be a part of something that includes everybody. Maybe not everybody as it is now when it comes to the FBS, but everybody would have to be included in some particular way. And about the only ones who think otherwise are probably those who like teams in the SEC, alums, donors, fans, T-shirt fans, etc. All right, let's start with the main issues in the Cantwell and Cruz bipartisan bill. It has a long way to go, But here are some of the key ingredients. And this is, again, this has got, there'll be many more hearings, many more meetings, some posturing, etc. But here is the key. You can transfer one time. Now, there's already been reaction to this too about whether or not this would ever fly. But if you look at what's on here, how many of you also would like this if it works out? But one time, you transfer one time. There would be a 5-year eligibility, pro player ban. So 5 years to play, 5 years, or however long you can play, but not after 5. And then there would not be any of the Charles Bediako or the player at Baylor, among others, who LSU just signed a guy that has been a part of pro basketball. That's done. You cannot come back once you enter a professional league. Hard cap. There's specifically a hard cap. You had the House settlement. What was it? 20.5. It goes up every year. You have a cap for whatever it might be. It cannot be 50 million if it's supposed to be 20.5. There might be other ways for you to get players money that will go through the College Sports Commission, but a hard cap. 5%, this is something that's good for the players, a 5% max on the agent fees, because sometimes, and you've heard stories about some agents have been gouging the student athletes or college players when it comes to NIL. The Lane Kiffin rule. Craig, what do they mean by the Lane Kiffin rule?
They mean that coach can't just leave in the middle of a season. I think that was not necessarily the Lane Kiffin rule. I understand what they're getting at with that, but he did try to stay. I believe it's like a little bit more to unpack. It's not just as clean cut as, Lane Kiffin left in the middle of the season and that's all there was to it. Obviously, there was a lot to it outside of that, but that's basically the gist of it, is that a coach is not going to be allowed to just depart his team in the middle of a run. So that's what they're trying to protect as far as that Lane Kiffin rule, as I guess people are calling it right now.
And also, by the way, Lane Kiffin could have stayed at Ole Miss, but he had to make a decision. No, they basically told him, you have to leave. So there we are with the Lane. And again, Florida was a part of that, and that's something we might be able to get into later in the show.
Yeah, and like the Lane Kiffin, if you remember, he tried to stay. He tried to play the victim and act as though he should be allowed to coach out the rest of the season. And then eventually Ole Miss was like, no, we're not going to allow that to happen. And then he and his media contingent tried to turn it on them like they were the bad guys. And you could tell who the marks are by who followed along with that narrative for about 2 days before everybody realized that's just preposterous. So, I mean, I don't know if you really break it down to it's Lane Kiffin's the only one guilty of this. He's certainly not. So that's why I'm just kind of like, if you want to call it that, cool. I don't know that it really is all about him, but he is the most recent, most high profile example of that happening. So I'm all on board with the coach not being allowed to leave their current school and get hired elsewhere before the end of the season, which is, I guess, the real language of that is you can't leave, go, get hired, and the season's still ongoing while all that's happening.
Also, optional pooling of TV rights. Now, this one here is going to be hard to deal with, because what this means, and they have even, I think, a line in the deal that said if you are a conference that makes over $1 billion in revenue, and of course the Big Ten, $1.4 billion, and then the SEC's in that near $1 billion, but it is to take all of the television revenue and put it in a pool like the NFL does. Not quite that way. There are still ways that if you're the SEC and you're the Big Ten, you're going to still get a big chunk of it. But some of that money would be then split up and pooled among everybody that's a part of whatever this is going to be, whoever will be a part of this. And, for example, the Big Ten and SEC are opposed to pooling for obvious reasons. Ted Cruz, senator, is saying that he hopes the FBS leagues will negotiate, though, with those two conferences to at least give and take a little bit. But to say that the Big Ten is going to take $1.4 billion and get only $800 million out of it, that's not going to happen, but there has to be some give and take.
Yeah, there does. I mean, there's a lot more details into some of this as far as
now these are just the bullet points right here.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that there's a little bit more detail to it that I don't know if we're going to dive fully into every corner of every argument here. I actually find some of the stuff at the top more interesting than the bottom stuff, but I know the bottom stuff's more relevant to I think the Super League idea and that that whole conversation, much like we had last week. So that's particularly of interest because there's some things in here that would prohibit a breakaway, as it says there at the bottom. And the pooling of the TV rights, I think, is certainly a lightning rod that could create some further division because, yeah, the SEC and Big Ten, why would they want to pool TV rights? For the greater good, we know they don't care so much about the greater good. So, yeah, the leagues who are like everybody else and trying to get as much as they possibly can, I think you're going to have a real hard time with the idea of going backwards and sharing TV money that sets them apart and gives them their 20, 30, 40, $50 million advantage school by school over most other leagues. Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot about that one when Sankey and Petiti and others talk on this eventually.
And then this one here prohibits Super League. And some of you that are a part of the chat and others who would never get in the chat but are a part of watching what we do, that is, of course, the discussion you hear from the SEC and the Big Ten. If they all of a sudden want to break away and do their own thing, and maybe they'll take 5 or 6 from the ACC or 5 or 6 from the Big 12 or 1 or 2 somewhere else, but it would prohibit the Super League, which, of course, is interesting. They shouldn't need the Super League if they can get all of this figured out. Not just this bill, not everything will pass, not everything will be popular, but to figure out a way that everybody can survive and you can still, if you're the big bad wolf, still have your big, large war chest of money and revenue.
Yeah, this is a really good idea for fans that are not of the Big Ten and SEC variety or people who are in those leagues. I know there's plenty of people who are Auburn fans who are just college football fans. Not everybody's like this weird pride over everything version of college football fans like we like to stereotype sometimes. So I think there's plenty of Big Ten fans and plenty of SEC fans who don't want to see a breakaway, who don't think it's a good idea, who just like college football the way that they grew up with. And so if you're anti-Super League, wherever corner you're coming from, yeah, I think you would like this. I mean, the bill states that if you make over $1 billion in revenue as a league, which is only the SEC and the Big Ten, that you are prevented basically from merging or consolidating with other conferences. So basically it says if you make more than $1 billion, you wouldn't be allowed to merge. So if you are the SEC or Big Ten, you're the only two that this really targets. You can't merge with each other is what that outlines very clearly. So yeah, I mean, it says right there that there's only 2 leagues who would have that option. And they're not allowed to do it. Well, guess what? That means if you think the Big Ten and the SEC can just go link arms and go form this new league and go be the NFL light version of football, this explicitly prohibits that from happening. So that is very notable. And there's a lot of notable things in this drawn up idea that has been parts of discussions and is kind of a probably mutated version of who knows how many hundreds of discussions over the last several years. But it seems to check a lot of boxes of interest and does have some solutions. And not all of them are throw a Hail Mary and hope for Jesus to come down and wash away your sins, or you know what I mean? Like these extreme, like, well, it's a 1 in a billion, but we'll just trudge forward with it. Like rather than it be that whole song and dance that we've been dealing with, this is actual real deal government help. Now, some will push back and argue on how much they should be able to be allowed to get away with or dictate or whatever. But if you're just, again, a college football fan who wants to see some sanity, wants to see some rules, and wants to see any type of prevention of this Super League future or things like that, this wild, wild west, as many have referred to it over the years, this would seem to curtail quite a bit of that. But yeah, it explicitly addresses a Super League and would not allow the SEC and Big Ten to link up. So I'm sure they're already figuring out ways around every single one of these things. When I mean they, like every school and league out there is pouring over this and figuring out where the loopholes are or where the weaknesses are to be found in some of this, and just flat out figuring out what they don't like about this. We haven't heard, since this is pretty freshly introduced, Greg Sankey opine on this, which I'm sure we will at some point. Same with Tony Petiti, same with everybody else out there that are voices in college football. So I'm very interested to hear what some of the reaction is to this, but on the surface level, without getting into the weeds on like what's legal, what will be challenged and all that. First of all, this is months away from happening. There's going to be challenges. It's a matter of if not when, and all that's going to come. But just in general, from just a basic look at this, like, yeah, there's a lot to like about this. If you're a fan of college football and you're somebody who's been begging for some kind of sanity and some kind of rules, but clearly it's going to rub some people the wrong way, including the two top conferences in the Power Four.
I mentioned the timeline. This is not going to be voted on anytime soon. There's a lot of work to be done. A lot of like hands getting dirty, and maybe not the best way to put it when you're talking about Congress, but there's still a lot to get to. Ross Dellinger kind of summed it up this way. The introduction of a bill is only the beginning of a months-long process of amendments, hearings, floor and committee arguments, specific language in the bill so far not finalized, just again, some of the bullet points will determine its support from college sports entities like the Big Ten and the SEC, because it goes nowhere if the Big Ten and the SEC say they don't want to be involved in this. And then perhaps there will be some sort of thought that people split off.
Well, that's potentially, but that's the whole deal. I mean, they're either going to be on board or they're not, and we're going to get to where we're going or we're not. But there's also part of and there's just a lot to digest. So I'm still trying to remember it all as best as I can and all of that. But there was part of some of the agreement, I think, as far as that TV proposal goes, where a certain percentage could be reached without the SEC or the Big Ten.
Yep, I got that right here.
Given their go-ahead. So I don't know how they're going to respond to that, but that seems to be a pretty effective workaround from them just filibustering or whatever a better term would maybe be for that, preventing it from happening. I think there's actually a workaround that if everybody else in the country was on board with it, ACC, Big 12, and everyone else, they'd actually have the percentage that they would need to move forward. So, there's a lot here to unpack. There's a lot to like. There's some things you kind of side-eye because I'm not sure how realistic it is or if it can withstand challenges, but I'm sure all the legal teams are pouring over this and figuring out the best steps forward. And again, it's going to be months of this still going through the process. So not like we're flipping a switch and tomorrow suddenly eligibility is completely changed, but it is probably a step further than some people expected we would get as far as Cantwell and Cruz coming together from different sides of the aisle and agreeing on something.
The bill permits conferences to pull media rights as long as at least 75% of FBS programs agree with such a measure. The Big Ten, SEC, of course, are opposed to it. If you take all of the FBS schools right now and you have everybody in the SEC and Big Ten say they don't want this, it would be just a smidgen over 75%. That doesn't mean everybody else would agree to it, but just a smidgen over 75% on some of this passing. That's also with the pooling of television revenue and media rights as well, which is something that Cody Campbell's been bringing up quite a bit over the last couple of years as well.
And we know that they don't like it, and we know that they don't want to go forward with that because they would have to share their money. And so I think that's one of the issues you immediately run into. The SEC and the Big Ten bring in the most money. There's no debate about that. And they're looking at their next TV contract, and all of a sudden you tell them they might pull rights. Well, that drastically changes things. So as Cruz said, the other conferences are going to have to negotiate and bring forward an agreement that will be, I think the word used was attractive enough to the SEC and Big Ten to get them on board. And the whole point is to not try to force anybody to want to leave. It's to get everybody on the same page and keep everybody on the same page. But it sounds as though it's not a matter of you either sign this or you don't. They're going to have to sweeten the pot and probably give some concessions to get the SEC and Big Ten on board. And it's a matter of what that would look like. But 75% of 180 or 138 FBS schools must be reached. That comes through replicating the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961. And so Cantwell said as part of this, they're trying to encourage conferences to return to more regionality when it comes to their games, believes the league should reverse their conference makeup that created the mega leagues a few years ago, and also forced a lot of extra expenses for travel and whatnot. So they say that regionalism is what they're going for here. And I think a lot of people are on board with that idea and miss that part of college football these last few years when you're seeing some of these weird cross-country matchups. So, again, it'll come down to concessions and what agreement can be reached. SEC and Big Ten I'm sure figuring out their defense plan or their plan of attack. But yeah, it's going to be another negotiation amongst a lot of other negotiations.
Here's Cody Campbell's response to it. As a senior member of the President's Roundtable on Fixing College Sports, which has been working with many senators, House members, and other key stakeholders, we are encouraged that the release of comprehensive legislation could be imminent. Well, this was late yesterday. Senators Cantwell and Cruz should be greatly applauded for their bipartisan effort in working to solve a very complex and existential set of problems. We look forward to continued work in pushing this across the finish line, preserving a great American treasure. You mentioned Sankey, Petiti, haven't heard from them. Brett Yormark just released this a minute ago. On behalf of the Big 12 Conference, we thank Chairman Cruz and also Ranking Member Cantwell for their leadership efforts to address the challenges facing college athletics. We look forward to reviewing the legislation and providing constructive feedback as part of the process and remain committed to empowering student athletes while helping build a sustainable future for college sports. So he's on record. Of course, he's up in Frisco right now with the Big 12 spring meetings.
Well, and of course he's for it. I mean, everybody will be except for the SEC and the Big 10. So there again lies the problem and why this isn't just, all right, let's sign the bill and push it through. I mean, there's a lot of hoops still to jump through with this. I think there's a lot of doubt that this actually ends up on the other side, exactly how it's being presented right now. And I think the pooling of TV rights will be a big one. Certainly don't see the SEC, for example, saying, yeah, you know what, we're going to give Texas and Oklahoma back to the Big 12, or we'll push them back in that direction, nor will Texas and Oklahoma agree with that, nor will USC want to go back to the Pac-12 or any of those scenarios. So I don't think that all of this is feasible, but I do like some of the buzzwords you're hearing, like regionality and trying to return to that. I'm really not so sure on the TV rights thing as I keep going back to that. I just don't know how on the surface that's going to work. So again, a lot of that will be the sweetening of the pot by the others and how much percentage they decide to give away to try and get those two on board with that. But I don't think that those two are going to budge unless it's pretty significant. So that alone could be something that stonewalls this thing. But I like the transfer rules. I know there will be pushback against that. There will be lawsuits about, I mean, we see it already. Why would we not see it on the other side of this thing? That's interesting, though, because I would like to get to a place where, hey, it's your fifth year and your fifth year's over. Well, regardless of how you got here, that's it. You move on. You're not fighting for year 7, year 8, citing this, that, or the other as a reason why you need to play year 9. And I know there are not a ton of examples of that, but there are examples of that. And we've had plenty of 7th-year examples in this past offseason, probably more than any other. So that definitely needs to be figured out and handled. But, yeah, there's just a lot of fights that are going to be coming from this thing. It makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't serve everybody the same. So this, again, is a sport that's been dominated and fractured by self-interest. So when you're talking about this global, universal method of everybody getting along, I mean, that completely goes against the very fabric of what they've been fighting all along. So that's the problem more than anything else.
Sometimes they don't get along even when things are good. And right now we know that there's all sorts of stress and anger and all of animosity. So it has to go through various meetings, a subcommittee, and eventually then, if in fact it looks like it can get into the House and a vote, they'll do that. If it does pass, then they go to the Senate. This is going to take time, but it's on paper. You can tear part of it. I thought that the cap number, that might be something that's going to get hit. They did not get into the employee or collective bargaining agreement so much, but that's something that could come at some point down the road.
No, I think that actually Ted Cruz kind of backed off of he was from what I recall, very much anti-employee. So they're staying out of that and being more neutral about the language. They're not saying that they are strictly anti-employee like they were originally. So that's one of the concessions being made here.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Neutral on employment, clearing the path for employment collective bargaining in the future. And as Maria Cantwell said, I think discussion about a CBA is over? No, but it's not a part of this because it meant that would probably just kick right out the door if, in fact, it was even brought up. Now, a couple of other things to get to. This is from Mark Eisenberg. We've had Mark on the show along with so many others who understand or at least are a part of what goes on when it comes to the legal parts of what we have now in college sports. And here is Mark Eisenberg. If you wouldn't mind blowing that up for me just a little bit, Rez. He said, unified antitrust.
It's limited.
Limited I don't have my contacts in today. Limited antitrust exemption is oxymoronic, as I wrote last week. And he said that's one thing, by the way, that he saw it, that attorneys, law firms, or whatever else are going to pick this apart as they do. And as they have done, they hope that this one at least has more opportunities to move forward. So there we are with that. Also, the Big 12 spring meetings opened up today. We'll have Pete Mundo. He'll join us from Heartland College Sports at 3:30. Trey Wallace from Outkick will join us at 4:25. He's written the big article about this proposal for college sports. And then also today at 4 o'clock, Kansas baseball hitting coach Tyler Hancock will join us today at 4 o'clock. Here's just a couple of notes from the Big 12 spring meetings up in Frisco. First of all, you walk into the Omni lobby, and here's the placard that they have out front showing that, hey, spring meetings have begun. There's only really a couple of things. Women's basketball was featured today. Men's basketball was featured today. Women's basketball had meetings as well. Here is the schedule for this week, including today, tomorrow, and Friday. And I bring this up because look at what's happening tomorrow at 4. Texas Tech football coach Joey McGuire, and then Rich Rodriguez of West Virginia. That is tomorrow at Big 12 spring meetings. And you know that Joey McGuire is going to be asked questions. And you would think that one of them tomorrow would be, did you guys know about Brendan Sorsby and gambling when you were trying to recruit him? It would be a fair question, and Joey better be ready for it, because I'm sure that it's coming, because it'll be one of the first times anyone's heard from him since a lot of this went down, other than a statement or two that he's released.
I mean, Texas Tech put out like 100 pages worth of statements, it felt like, yesterday as soon as the Sorsby news came down. And really, it was 2 from Skuvenek, and then they had like another Instagram post from Sorsby. So I'm being hyperbolic there, but they had quite a bit to say immediately after that decision came down. But yeah, I'm sure everybody is interested to hear what Joey McGuire has to say. We know where his president stands. We know what Sorsby's thoughts are. So yeah, it's only logical that McGuire will now be asked about it. I don't know that there's some smoking gun that they are, like, he would acknowledge, even if they did know that Sorsby was gambling. You think he's going to say that at Big 12 meetings if he's asked that question?
Well, I didn't say he had to answer it. I just said you would think that question will absolutely be asked. You would think it would be, and it should be.
I mean, I'm sure it will be, but I don't think we'll get the answer if that's what's happened. And I don't really know that they knew that to begin with, as we've had the conversations about needing to do more due diligence, and every athletic department having a bit of a wake-up call. And you saw the SEC today is establishing, or discussing at least, further education on gambling. And it's clearly somewhat of a reaction to not only the environment that we're in, but also to the Sorsby story. So I think Tech is maybe the poster child of just not doing quite enough, because we didn't know what all needed to be done, because who could foresee a situation like this? Now, yeah, you could foresee a situation where somebody gets in trouble for gambling, but like this specific case example of going and getting this star quarterback, I don't think anybody foresaw that. But now Texas Tech's the wiser for it, and they've also made a lot of other schools probably far more diligent in their pursuit of certain players and their background checks and all of that. So yeah, I mean, he'll get asked about it. I'm sure he'll deny that they knew anything, because why would he say anything else? And I'm curious to hear what else he has to say about it. But I would anticipate, without knowing, obviously, what all he's going to be discussing, that he'll reaffirm their support, hope that Brendan gets the ability to play, and they're going to support him either way, is about what I would expect.
And because it is a pending injunction meeting, hearing, all that on Monday, he may be able to just say, I can't comment on that, because it's still a part of an investigation and also a lawsuit. One note from Big 12 Media Days of interest: the men's basketball coaches meeting, along with the Big 12, and the interest is from Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle about the possibility of going back to 20 conference games. They have 18 now. We do know that it's a battering ram, but there is conversation about the possibility of going from 18 to 20 games. Nothing imminent from Kelvin Sampson today. No decision was made, but at least there was discussion about that moving into whatever year that might happen. And it may not happen. It may not pass, and then they stay at where they are with 18. When we come back, Pete Mundo, Heartland College Sports, he will join us. His thoughts about today, his thoughts about the bill, his thoughts about the Big 12 and where they are in the landscape of college athletics. Trey Wallace, 425, who's written the story about that college sports bill. And also today, Kansas hitting coach Tyler Hancock will join us during the College World Series and hosting a regional this week. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza. 5 locations here around the Waco area and the fastest growing pizza brand in America. Go online to marcos.com wherever you are, and there will be specials, whether it's the Magnifico Pizza, which has a bunch of pepperoni where you can't even see anything else but that on the top of the pie, or maybe it's all Italian sausage spread everywhere, or the combination of both. And then they will also have some offers when it comes to a medium pizza with 1 topping or a large pizza with 2 or 3 toppings. You get to choose the toppings and the price of a discount compared to what it normally is when you would order a pizza. And they have salads and sandwiches, and they have wings and more. Bob Mock, the owner, 5 locations here, been in the pizza business for a quarter of a century, from the beginning when he used to deliver pizzas for another brand back in the day. Marco's Pizza, fastest growing pizza brand in America. Marcos.com. Pizza lovers get it.
Broker is your Lennox Premier dealer. Right now, qualified buyers can make no payments and get no interest financing for 12 months on a new Lennox home comfort system. Conditions apply. Call Ray Broker Air Conditioning and Heating Specialists for details and a free estimate.
At Allen Samuels Jeep in Waco, get a 2026 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $32,990. Or take $10,000 off a 2026 Jeep Grand Cherokee Summit.
Come by, let's be friends.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
Extreme Texas weather calls for Ray Broker, your Lennox Premier dealer. Sign up for our year-round comfort plan and keep your home the perfect temperature no matter what the forecast is. Call or visit raybroker.com now. Ray Broker, your air conditioning and heating specialist.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
Pete Mundo, who was honored, and we'll get to that in just a moment, from Heartland College Sports, also KCMO Radio in Kansas City, and many other places, from Fox News to CBS Sports and more, joins us on the Smoke Show. Pete, thank you very much. We'll get to your being honored as one of the great medium market talk shows. That's awesome. But what are your thoughts about yet another bill being sent to Congress, and does it have a chance in hell?
Well, it's great to be with you, Smokey. I will say this much. I dread the idea of Congress being involved in really anything, but this sport and really college sports in general is in such a dangerous and precipitous place that as bad as Congress is for the most part at its job, it might be the last hope to actually save these sports that we all love. From the Title IX issues to the NIL spending to the scheduling, it's all out of control. We know it. And it's really a race to the bottom because there's nobody looking out for the sport of college football or the sport of college basketball. In the case of the money sports, they're looking out for their conferences, their programs, and the coaches are looking out for themselves. So we've got a mess, and Congress is a mess, but maybe this is the mess that we need to create to get some kind of barriers and barometers around the sport right now.
Pete, what jumps out to you about what has been proposed from Cruz and Cantwell? I mean, obviously a lot to like, obviously as well a lot that's probably going to be fought tooth and nail, especially pooling of TV rights and things of that nature. But if you've got a chance to kind of look over it, anything in particular pop out to you more than others?
Well, it's all the things we've been talking about. You guys have been talking about it for years. I've been talking about it for years. And it's okay. The transfer portal was great, but it's like everything, and not just college athletics, but it seems like culture and society in general, we take it from one end of the pendulum and we swing it way too far to the other side, and now we've got to pull it back. So like the transfer portal, it was out of control. We all know that. So I like the idea of having just one transfer, as I read it this morning, one transfer without any kind of a penalty. That's fair. I might put a caveat in there and say, hey, if a coach leaves, you can have another transfer without penalty. There's a lot of gray area to this. And I don't know how much these members of Congress focus on this every day like you and I do, and like many of us in the sports world do. So I don't know how much of that fine language is going to be in there, but it should be in there. I look at things like limiting athlete eligibility to 5 years. To me, that's a no-brainer as well. I like that. I like a lot of this, but the devil's always in the details. It would help solve the problems that we have in college sports. We know, there's nothing about this that is political in any way. It's just if you're a college sports fan, you, for the most part, probably agree on these issues. They're 80-20 issues. There aren't many of those left in the country. College sports fans agree on these things, so let's get it done. But, anytime you're going down the road of Congress, there's always some trouble on the horizon, it seems.
So if you're the Big Ten and you're the SEC and you're making combined $2.3 billion, the Big Ten with $1.4 billion, and you have most of the ratings in all of everything, why would you want to agree to negotiate to give up any of that at all?
You wouldn't, and that's you wouldn't. There's no reason for them to. Now, we all, and you guys talked about it, Jamie Pollard last week basically threatening the SEC and the Big Ten, saying, you know what, they should take their ball, they should go do their thing, and let's see how it plays out for them in other sports. I mean, listen, I get where Jamie Pollard's at. He's a purist when it comes to college athletics. I think many of us are. But, poking the bear, and I'm saying this as a Big 12 guy, poking the bear doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense when you see the revenues for the Big 12 come out this week, and it's, a little more than half of the SEC and about 35 to 40% of the Big 10. I mean, you're basically begging them to go away. Now, is there a world where a framework of 40 to 60 Power 4 teams come together and create a mini NFL, and we go back to the days of, a Southwest Conference, a Big 8 conference? Sure, I would love that. I think that would be great for the sport. But what's the incentive for the Big 10 and the SEC right now? And to your point, there is absolutely none. There's no reason for them to want to basically do a favor for, the ACC or the Big 12. It's an unfortunate reality. The question I have is, if we get to the point where they do say we're done, do they want to carry their dead weight? Do they want to carry around Rutgers? Do they want to carry around, a Minnesota? Do they really want to do that? Does the SEC want to carry around Vanderbilt, even though they're coming a long way? There's a lot of investment there at Vanderbilt, so maybe not the best example. But do they want to carry around the Mississippi states? I don't know. They're going to have to make that determination because there could be other programs that would be of more interest to them.
Pete, especially in light of some of the money that's being talked about and reported on, and just and the usual off-season discussion, here we are in 2026, heading into the summertime. How do you feel about the state of the Big 12 in general and sort of where they find themselves at this point?
I think the Big 12 is where we expected them to be. The money is about what we expected. The great thing the Big 12 has going for it and will continue to have going for it is the parity, especially in the wake of the Sorsby case. We'll see how that plays out. But the parity is the Big 12's greatest strength in football. But also at the same time, the parity hurts them. We're sitting here talking about a 2014 playoff, and yes, it would be cool to have more than one Big 12 team in an expanded playoff. Does any Big 12 fan legitimately think that one of these teams that's always stacked between, say, 15 and 25 genuinely believe that their team can make a deep run in a college football playoff based on what we saw last year with Tech and Oregon? No. So we're tricking ourselves. What we really need to look at is who's going to be the program to step to the plate in the way that Texas Tech has done the last couple of years. Where is the Cody Campbell at a place like Baylor, at a place like Oklahoma State? It doesn't have to be one guy, but who are these Cody Campbells? They're out there. You got to find them. They got to invest at least until Congress does its part. So I think the Big 12 is healthy. I understand why Yormark wants the playoff expansion, but I think the whole thing is a fool's errand right now because we watch these games. We know the difference between what we see at the top of the sport and the top really 4, 5, 6 teams, and then teams, let's say, 8, 9 through 25. There is a drop-off there. It's very obvious to those of us who watch the sport, but the Big 12 is wildly entertaining in college football. It is as unpredictable still as any league in college football, and the basketball is still top-notch. I thought it was a disappointing March Madness, but the Big 12's in a good place with basketball right now, and I think that's going to continue to be the gold standard, and we'll see how Yormark plays the TV contract side of that coming up in the next couple of years, and if he does choose to decouple basketball from football.
Pete, the Big 12, we mentioned the money of all the conferences. The ACC third ahead of the Big 12, and they had a great year. The Big 12 had a record-breaking year for revenue. What race, you had the article, but what race are they actually running? Because they're not going to catch the old days of they're not going to catch Kip Keino when he used to run the mile faster than everybody else. He's just not going to do it. And I just went blank on the great sprinter. I don't know why I did, but they can't win that race. What race can they win?
Were you going for Usain Bolt there, Smokey? Was
that's what I was doing. Yeah,
you were going for the Usain Bolt reference?
Damn, I went back in the 70s with Kip Keino. Yeah.
Okay, you were going back then. The Big 12, what the Big 12 is doing to me, and the race that I think Brett Yormark is ultimately trying to play here is the access race. How do we get to a place where this league at least has access, and that as much as I don't believe there's a deep run right now for one of these teams, it's like anything else. It's a numbers game. That's what they're playing here, a pure numbers game, and then hope you get a hot hand. The Big 12's problem is it has one college football playoff win since this playoff existed. And I say this as a diehard Big 12 guy who wants to see this league succeed. That's unacceptable. It's just we thought that Tech might be the team last year, and we saw how that game went, unfortunately. So, yes, we need access. The Big 12 needs to get access, but then they've got to win games. So right now the race is for access. Do I think that's the best thing for the Big 12 or for college football to get an expanded playoff? I don't. But Brett Yormark's job is not to look out for college football. Brett Yormark is paid to look out for the Big 12, and that's what he's doing right now. That's why he's pushing the 2014 playoff, and that's why the access game is the critically important game that he's trying to play, because if this whole thing does start shifting again in, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years, he wants the Big 12 to be well-positioned to at least find itself in a place where they can get teams into whatever this potential Super League, Super Conference, whatever you want to call it, might look like.
So yesterday the story came out. The NCAA did what we knew they would do, and Brendan Sorsby's ineligible. And then the president of Texas Tech released a statement, a very lengthy statement. In fact, I think, Craig, you said he maybe released 2, supporting him, backing him, saying that they should have his back. And I get all that. But was that the right move for Texas Tech when it comes to their overall PR for the country as they try to rise to a level that they've never been before?
You know, there's so many different layers to it, because the short answer to my question there, Smokey, would be no. But at the same time, nobody likes the NCAA. There is no one more hypocritical in the history of North American sports than the NCAA. So Texas Tech is looking at it and saying, okay, like the Sorsby thing to me is pretty cut and dry. I don't know how you can justify having him play based on what is alleged to have happened here. And the reality is these are not like one or two bets. These are thousands of bets, including on teams that he was, donning the uniform of. I just don't know how you can get around that. That being the case, Texas Tech is looking at it and saying, from a PR perspective, no one likes the NCAA. They may disagree with us, but is anyone really going to go defend the NCAA in a PR battle? No. I mean, that's PR suicide to defend the NCAA. So no one wants to really do that. So he knows he's got a great punching bag going up against the NCAA. It's a no-brainer from a PR perspective. You know that Tech fans are going to be all in on it. I mean, on my show, listen, I don't see how you can justify Sorsby playing based on the rules, saying, especially with the Indiana deal, you can't be playing. But Tech fans are going to defend their guy. I get it. Here's the irony of it all. If Will Hammond's healthy, I think Will Hammond's ceiling is higher than Brendan Sorsby. I watched more Brendan Sorsby than the average Tech fan just because I'm a Big 12 guy. I never once saw Sorsby carry that Cincinnati team on its back and beat anybody that they were not as good as. They beat teams they were supposed to beat, and when they went up against better teams, whether it was Utah last year during College Game Day in early November, they got smoked. He never put a team on his back. He never carried a team. I think that Tech is going to bat for Sorsby because he's their guy and they're invested in him. But if Will Hammond's healthy, I think that ceiling for Will Hammond is higher than Brendan Sorsby.
And I think Joey McGuire is a master when it comes to the culture piece. So his players see him sticking up for his guy in a really rough moment, and that's just the smart play there as well. I mean, they're like, man, Joey's got our back no matter what we're going through, no matter how the media is tearing us apart, whether we made the right decision or the wrong decision, like our guys got our back. And I think that's just the logical move to make as well. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Brendan Sorsby is pretty good at times, but he also, as much as he kept him in the Nebraska game, he also threw the pick at the end that lost the Nebraska game. You could argue his receiver could have fought more for it, but yeah, they had a hard time kind of getting over that hump, as you mentioned there. Is it BYU? Is it Utah? What's top of your mind when you think, all right, what could topple this Texas Tech reign at the top? Who could find themselves in the playoff? Where does your mind immediately go as far as next season?
Well, it goes to BYU, but now obviously they're down another wide receiver, and I really think the Jay Hill departure at defensive coordinator is not getting nearly enough attention. I mean, there were BYU fans who were ready to run Kalani Sitake out of town, and then Jay Hill comes in, turns around that defense, and let's be honest, that defense was the star of that program the last couple of years when they went on these two great runs. So I don't think that's getting enough attention. But you guys know this, and the Utah deal is interesting too because Morgan Scalley steps in, he's replacing the dude, and then the dude goes to Michigan and takes a bunch of his dudes. I mean, that is a really tough spot for Morgan Scalley. We know in the Big 12 there is going to be that team that none of us see coming that is going to absolutely shock this conference and be in contention at the end of the season. And, we could sit here all day and talk about which team that is and who that's going to be. And, if I'm just spitballing here, is it Arizona State? Is it Kansas State? Is it Oklahoma State with all these transfers and all the talent from North Texas? We're going back to the days of Brandon Whedon and Justin Blackman and Oklahoma State scoring 65 points a game. Are we looking at that kind of an Oklahoma State team? There are those teams in the Big 12, and I think that one of them is going to pop that's probably not getting enough attention. Is it TCU finally? Sonny Dykes is building up high school guys. He's kind of done the opposite of the portal plan. He's built up some more high school guys and trying to work that route, and we'll see if this is the year after a couple of good recruiting classes for TCU to make a step up. But, those four teams come to mind when it's like who might be in that race the last couple of weeks in November and might give Tech a run for its money, but it still is going to be Tech as the heavy favorite in this conference, and that's who it should be, frankly, whether it's Brendan Sorsby or it's Will Hammond.
Final thing, Pete, you were honored as the second best mid-market news talk show in the morning among 75 or 80 mid-markets by broadcast executives around the country, congratulations from what you do on KCMO, but also in general. What was that like to get that news?
Well, it just tells me I tricked enough people to become number 2, I guess. That's what I learned from it. No, listen, it's a business I've been in, obviously, for about 15 years. I'm doing a morning show on KCMO. Been doing that for 8 years, and running and owning Heartland College Sports has been my sports passion project for a very long time. But it's weird how the sports news culture world just kind of comes together at times in strange ways. And where we started this conversation, Congress trying to save what we know of college sports is a perfect example of that. These worlds seem to come together more often than people realize. And, we've built a nice brand here in Kansas City with KCMO. We've done it around the Big 12 with Heartland College Sports. And I appreciate you mentioning that, Smokey. Thanks so much, brother.
Yeah, you too, man. It's great to have you on. It's been too long. Pete Mundo, you do a great job with Heartland College Sports as well. Have a great rest of the day and week, man. Thank you.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Pete Mundo with us. Many things, from a lot of the news today to the Big 12 and where it is and what is their mission statement, or what race are they trying to win? And Roger Dodger said, Smokey, it's Usain Bolt. And then said that, I feel like I've watched the show long enough where I can read Smokey's mind. My God, please don't tell me there's someone that can do that, because we ought to sit down and have some drinks. But Usain Bolt, I went back into the 70s. That's where my mind can wander, because I can't remember sometimes just a week or two ago.
Yeah, it's
a terrible thing to waste, that old UNICEF commercial, whatever it was. Yeah,
it's just age can have its way sometimes, and it's hard to pull that name that was easy to pull at another point in time, but it happens to everybody at some point. So not faulting you too much for that, but I think that the thing that I appreciate about Pete, and we have a lot of good analysts on, especially when it comes to the Big 12, and that's what we're obviously kind of talking about pretty specifically there. But I appreciate that he's not a gaslighter.
Yep.
I appreciate, and I think there's a lot of people that aren't necessarily that we talk to around the space, like Shahan. And I'm trying to think of like guys who are Shahan, I know, is a national guy as well. I appreciate John Kurtz. There's various, I don't want to like name too many names and then unintentionally leave people out.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But then there's some that you just know are full of absolute S, and it's a very short list, but the gaslighting is off the charts about where the Big 12 is realistically. And I sometimes I understand that it's for the purposes of just getting a reaction, and it's not ever meant to be taken all that seriously. But yeah, I like that Pete is just like realistic about what the league is and calling it like it is. We're not pretending like they're going to topple the SEC in a few years or even entertaining the idea, because we know that's not realistic. It's just simply not. Like, it would take a tsunami of epic proportions across the entire landscape to lead the changes that would lead to something like that. Now, that's not to say it can't still be very successful and go win a national championship if Texas Tech had the right chemistry and the right year and the right pathway. But I think to also acknowledge that they are number 3 at best, and they might even be number 4 right now, but they have a chance to get number 3, and they maybe could find themselves in a better position. Like, that's all realistic, as opposed to just acting as though you belong right beside the Big Ten making decisions and whatnot, or that you're going to, crush another conference with the snap of your fingers, and just kind of some of the nonsense I come across. I appreciate the realism. It's fun to speculate on things, but there comes a point where the speculation is just pure silliness. And I think that that can happen in realignment, especially. Now, he talks realignment. I think we're all very well aware of the opportunities that maybe await the Big 12 here in a few years, but you also see a report like what the ACC made, and hey, they're technically making more money than you. Now, you lose some of your brands, then that changes things, and that might be part of that tsunami of change that I talk about. But I just appreciate him being realistic and not trying to make something that it's not, or gaslight people into into thinking the Big 12's, in a different place than it actually is.
Because
I
get it. Yep.
Yeah. So because that's just, I like to deal in reality. So I think the future's potentially very, very bright. I think they're in a good spot, a much better spot than they were a few years ago. But as he acknowledges, there's a lot of work still to be done. And most of all, they need a team or two to crack through and really make an impact. And maybe that's Texas Tech, maybe that's BYU, but hopefully it's sooner rather than later, while they still have a chance to have that matter as much as it should.
Good stuff. Pete Mundo, you're right about him. You right. I get on and read his columns whenever possible, and follow him on Twitter if you can as well. I want to get to two more things, and then we have the top of the hour. Kansas hitting coach Tyler Hancock will join us. Kirby Hocutt. We discussed Brendan Sorsby, and I even have had people who are Tech fans, those of you who watch or not, that have said, man, we're kind of trying to move on from him. Well, then, of course, your president released a statement, and I get why he did it. At the same time, that can be debated for a long, long time. But Kirby Hocutt did say this yesterday to The Athletic. Asked if he knows how the NCAA learned of Sorsby's betting, the AD at Texas Tech said that's been shared with me, but I would not comment on that because, again, not sure what that is, or he can't comment it because it's still an investigation and also a lawsuit.
Well, this is why exactly when you brought up at the start of the show, Joey McGuire being asked these questions, I'm like, what is he going to say? Like probably something along these lines.
Well, But, and again, I want to clarify that. I know he has to be asked the question.
Of course.
I don't expect him, nor would anyone else expect him to probably answer in any way. Just like Kirby Hocutt just did here.
Yeah, we agree he's going to be asked the question. I think we also agree there's not much he's going to say about it, especially if it was damning to Texas Tech. Like, yeah, we knew. Oh, surprise. Like, hey, media, yeah, we knew all along. Like, of course he wouldn't say that. And even if they didn't know, I'm not so sure he would say that either, just because of what he's got to be careful about saying. So, yeah, I don't think we'll be enlightened too much by anything regarding Brendan Sorsby that comes from Joey McGuire. When he speaks to the media, there might be some other things of interest, but when you have a case ongoing like this, I think he'll just do what he's done, throw his support behind the young man like Tech has done, and wrap their arms around him and support him and protect him the best they can. And like I said there with Pete, it's a beautiful message for the locker room to see how much he's with them and through thick and thin, even if they might be on the wrong side of the fence. So, I think I'll be interested to hear what he has to say, but I'm not expecting him shedding too much light because this is a very, legal situation at the moment.
Yeah, there's some things you can't say. If you say it, you'd get yourself in trouble. But so you can be asked the question, you don't have to answer the question. When we come back, what a nice run it's been for Kansas baseball. My God. They are hosting a regional this weekend. They won the Big 12 regular season title. They won the Big 12 tournament title. And their hitting coach, Tyler Hancock, will join us in the next segment because KU is into the field of 64. Good for them and more. And what have been some of the great stories behind the scenes that maybe haven't been shared enough for those of you who watch this show or elsewhere. Tyler Hancock, KU baseball, next on 365 Sports. QC Kinetics. It's a business, a company, a place where I've had treatment ever since September. I got another text last night. Blake Kasparian, who I've known as Dad Charlie, who does a great job with the business here in Waco. I've played golf with both of them. Sent me a text yesterday going, I just heard you on a radio station in Dallas. How are you doing? And I could tell him I'm doing great. And QC Kinetics is as legit as you could possibly be because that's why I love talking about them. I don't know about you, but if you have a pain that seems like it's never, ever ending, if it's a pain that no matter if you've had steroid injections or what, it never gets better. And if it does maybe go away for a couple of weeks, it comes back and then it's there. I had a thumping, just arthritic, tugging feeling in my hip, my right hip, and I had for 4.5 to 5 years. Could not run, could not jog, could not do any of that. I had a free consultation, by the way. That's great with QC Kinetics in Dallas on 75. And I had my treatment in September. Then a follow-up, and you've got to wait about a month or so. And then a third one, and then a fourth one. I'm supposed to get 5 treatments. I haven't even used the 5th one because I feel so good. So it's kind of like in my back pocket. QC Kinetics takes your natural biologics. They take your natural body fluids inside of you, and they draw blood, spin it to get things out of it and put it back, in my case, in my back lower waistline. And then also, which that affected my right hip too. I have now run on average about 1 to 1.5, 2 miles every other day. And I don't stop at 1.5. I can't. It feels good to feel good. So why not you? Why are you waiting? Why are you kicking the can down the road? If even your doctor or anybody has suggested a procedure or surgery, before you do that, contact QC Kinetics. The numbers are on the screen in Dallas at 972-972-8610, in Houston, 713-913-5285. QC Kinetics, using you to fix you, with locations in Dallas and Houston.
It's in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Spring is here, and so are the savings during Richard Card's Spring into Savings sales event.
Right now, save $13,000 on a GMC Sierra with qualified trade-in. Or qualified buyers get 2.9% financing for 72 months. Get a 2026 Sierra for $585 a month with qualified trade-in. All GMC Sierra 2500 HD for $9,000 off right now.
Spring into action and save. Get your next ride at the Spring into Savings event at Richard Card.
Richard Card, they have the truck for you.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
Kansas baseball as a club sport began in 1867, varsity sport 13 years later, and they are on a nice heater, winning the regular season and the Big 12 conference tournament. Dan Fitzgerald, the head coach, 4th year there, and then also Tyler Hancock, among others on staff. And Tyler Hancock, the hitting coach, joins us, KU's hitting coach on 365 Sports. Coach, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. I know you got a lot of things to be dealing with as you have a regional coming your way. What is it like? What's it like with the baseball program and surrounding it with the excitement of what's happening this weekend?
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. This is exciting to talk Kansas baseball. Man, it's a great place, and surrounded by really good people here, whether that's players, administration, fans. I mean, we've got a really good place here. Really excited about it.
You know, and you run a run, and to double it up, to win the regular season to me is always better than winning the conference tournament. But when you can win both, it validates what you have. So you are hosting the regional, and there are two hosts, West Virginia, who, man, you guys went at it down the stretch as well with what the Mountaineers have done. Is it any different this weekend with the regional, 4 different teams, than if you were playing somebody in a 3-game weekend series?
Well, it's probably a little bit different with it being 4 teams instead of a 3-game series. But I think the conference tournament really prepares you for that. We played on Thursday last week, not knowing until Wednesday night who we were going to play. So you had to prepare pretty early for a couple of teams, and then really dive into one late. And then the same thing the next night. You win, as soon as the game's over, okay, now we've got to dive into another team. So I think that approach is probably pretty similar. Like we're really focused on Northeastern right now, and that's who we're going to play first. So we've got to be prepared to play those guys, and they're really good. And then you worry about the next team whenever that opportunity is there.
Why Coach Fitzgerald as the one, along with everyone else and the players, of course? Why has this changed under his leadership?
Fitz has won everywhere he's been. He knows what it takes to win. He's been around winning for a long time. Fitz is great. Fitz is really consistent and demands 2 things out of our guys all the time. Is number 1, you have to be a great teammate, and number 2, you have to work. And if you can do those 2 things, you'll fit in here and you'll thrive. And it's a great place. But very consistent in everything that he does. And just, again, he knows how to win, and he knows what it takes to be successful throughout the course of the season.
Did I not see in your resume when I was glancing through it, you were at Dallas Baptist for a short stint, right?
I was there during the COVID year.
Oh my good. Yeah, especially short stint during COVID.
It was really short, but it was a great experience.
I bet it was. We started this podcast during COVID, like in the early April of 2020. So we have kind of that story as well. But Dallas Baptist, we know which program they've had. You were there. He was there. He's been elsewhere. LSU is too. My goodness, a great history with them too. What about winning at that level? Or in your case, you've been everywhere at that level, and now being a part of an FBS program in the Big 12.
Well, I think development is huge. Obviously, recruiting's a big deal, and we try to do a really good job in recruiting of finding guys that fit together and guys that go, hey, we can develop this guy and try to hopefully help his skill set and get all those guys together and create a really good team. That at the end of the day, that's what we want. Is we want those guys to work together and have a good team. So I think when you've been around some different places and you go, okay, hey, they do this at this place, and then at this other place they do something different, and then you try to take all those things that you've learned and go, hey, if we get this at our place and use the things that we think can help us, then you start to develop your own plan and goals for your own team.
As a hitting coach, you got to have relationships with the players to kind of know what gets them fired up, or what to challenge, how to challenge, whatever. Is that individually with every single player? You have to just kind of know what pushes their button or also challenges them, that allows them to not feel like you're beating them up, but making them better?
Yes, that takes a lot of time. You spend a lot of time in the fall working on that stuff and conversations with guys. And I try to ask a lot of questions so that I'm not leading them to the answers that I want. I'm trying to ask questions so I can get to understand them and kind of what makes them go. And then yeah, hitting's hard. It's really hard. So you're right. Trying not to beat guys up. You got to hold them accountable, but at the same time, you also have to have an understanding of this is hard. And so I think working together, hey, I'm working with you. My job is to help you become the best version of yourself possible. So we spend a lot of time with conversations and try to get to know them. And hey, this guy, when you do this, this is how he responds, or this guy over here, he responds in a different way. So there's a lot of conversations in the fall. Try to ask a ton of questions, try to just really get to know guys and what makes them go.
So if somebody's in a slump, they just the ball looks like a BB rather than like a beach ball. And it happens. I mean, the greatest players on earth have had slumps before. And then you go and you work with them, extra hitting practice or in the cage, whatever, film work. And then they still kind of don't get out of the slump. Is that now more mental or is it more physical?
It probably depends on each individual guy. We'll break down a lot of different things, and I look through a lot of. We'll do video, but also look through a lot of swing decision stuff and contact. What kind of hard contact are we making? And if those two things are pretty good for the most part, you go, hey, this is gonna work out. Now, if we're making bad swing decisions and we're not hitting the ball hard, then we have to break it down further and go, okay, why are we not making good decisions and why are we not making hard contact? But yeah, it's there is a mental side to the game that is tough on guys, especially when it's not going your way. And so again, I think that goes back to the conversations in the fall that you have with guys and trying to understand them and explain to them and build that trust of, hey, here's some things we've got to do to get back on the right track. But you have to keep working. We talk about it all the time. Like you are going to face adversity in this sport at some point. Like it's coming. It's coming this weekend. We're just going to have to deal with it. And the only way through it is to go straight through it. So we talk about that on day one as a team of, hey, what we want to do and what we're trying to do is not easy. So we're going to have to learn to deal with some stuff.
Tyler, when you look at sports, like golf can be a difficult sport. It can be like exhilarating and yet the most frustrating thing in the history of the world. But the ball doesn't move. I mean, you make it move by hitting it with an iron, a wedge, or a driver, putter, whatever. In baseball, every pitch is different because it's off speed. It could be a curveball, a slider. It could be whatever. Is it the most difficult thing in sports to do, in your opinion?
I think it is. Now, I also think hitting that golf ball that sits still is pretty hard too. You want that thing to go straight, and I often find myself going, man, it's not moving. How does it not go straight? But yeah, I think pitching guys are learning all kinds of new stuff, and they can make the ball move in all kinds of different ways. So trying to prepare for that is difficult sometimes, but that's what we do at practice. You're trying to show guys different shapes. Hey, here's what we're going to see. Here's the shapes that you're going to see on Friday night. And then we're going to try to prepare for them and come up with a plan of how we're going to attack that guy.
Sports communication was what your major was at Newman University, but you also had a minor in pre-law. Have you ever used that?
I have not. That was probably by accident. Needed a few hours to graduate of electives and thought, man, I can get a minor in pre-law if I take this class. So ended up doing that. Knew I wanted to coach. This is what I've wanted to do my whole life. Knew that. So never used it, but it's kind of nice.
Now, I got a couple more things. I know you got plenty on your plate. Tyler Hancock, KU hitting coach with us. So there was a stretch at the end of the season where you guys went into a funk, and West Virginia was one of those reasons because we know that you guys were going head-to-head the whole time, and Creighton got you. What was the mood in the clubhouse or inside that locker room when you went through that stretch? It didn't ruin the year, but did you guys at any time question yourself?
No, that's what made our guys great. They didn't question it at all. It was obviously was a tough week. But it was, you get back out there on Tuesday when we practiced, and it was back to work. And even the stuff, Tuesday we play Creighton, didn't go like we wanted. Wednesday they're back to work. Thursday they work. Saturday morning after the first game against West Virginia, they were back to work. So I think that's a credit to our guys and just the mindset that they have of hey, it's over. We've got to move on and we've got to get prepared for the next one. And we're going to work.
So you have a game this, obviously the four teams, and you got to go through that. Well, do you take any kind of off, like any kind of break just to decompress, or did you do that after the tournament and the seeding was released?
We didn't have much going on Sunday afternoon, but as soon as we figured out who was coming to Lawrence on Monday, it's right to work. You're trying to prepare for 3 teams, but it's right back to work. There's not much time to relax.
6 teams in the Big 12. Do you feel like maybe 1 or 2 should have been also a part of that list in the tournament field?
I mean, I think so. The league's really good. It's top to bottom. It's really good. There are no weekends that you walk in and say, hey, if we just show up, you've got a really good shot to win. You have to play really good baseball every weekend in the Big 12. And I think everybody else would say the same. It's tough. You're seeing good arms. You're seeing good hitters. It's a really good league.
Thank you. Thanks for the time, Tyler. Appreciate your time. Good luck this weekend in the regional, and hopefully be a part of that next one the next week in the super regional. But take care of the business. Thanks for your time and have a great week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Tyler Hancock, the hitting coach at Kansas. Rock Chalk, as he said, KU as a 15 national seed. Northeastern's their first game in the Lawrence Regional. And what a story. When you look at their history of Kansas baseball, I mentioned their first year of varsity was 1880, 146 years ago. They've been to the College World Series 1 time in 1993. They were regional champions, and that's what also launched them into the College Baseball World Series. They have been in the tournament 93, 94, 06, and 09, 14, 7 times in all of those years, but back-to-back years with Coach, again, Dan Fitzgerald leading the way, and won the Big 12 title for the first time. They won it in 06. They won it again this year, both regular season and also the postseason tournament. When we come back around the corner, Trey Wallace with Outkick, his thoughts about today's news about the new bill trying to, help college sports, and what are his thoughts. He was also at SEC Media Days and any of the post of that too. We appreciate you. Rez, Logan, also Houston, Garrett, and Andrew. I'm David Smoke with Craig Smoke. This is the Smoke Show on 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Got a note from Alan Samuels, GM and CEO Ted Teague earlier today. Let's finish the month well. Memorial Day is over, but that doesn't mean the incentives and the discounts and the opportunities for you to ride and drive and own a beautiful Ram truck with all the different levels that they have, honored every year for what they do with Ram trucks, with the power and the grace, because now pickup trucks on the inside not only look and feel like an SUV, they drive like an SUV, but they have the power to haul whatever you need. And then, of course, what they have with Jeep brands, from the Wagoneer, which is a spectacular SUV, the Cherokee, the Grand Cherokee, and more. And they have a really nice pre-owned inventory on the lot as well. David Gray runs the sales department. He's got a great staff. Ted Teague, the general manager and CEO, as they close out the month of May, and there are opportunities for you there at the dealership, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture, or what you choose to grow. At Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the SMOAK Show. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the SMOAK Show on 365 Sports with David Smoke and Craig Smoke.
A couple of notes before we get to a couple of more SEC notes. The Baylor and Oregon football series, which was just around the corner, is canceled. The home and away with Eugene and also a game in Waco. And here's what happened. If you'll Reg, you don't have to put it up on the screen because it's not what I was going to discuss first with Craig, but Oregon and Oregon State, the Civil War rivalry that has been going on for 120 some years, has been reestablished, and they will have 4 games, 2 in Eugene and 2 also in Corvallis. That series, the rivalry, has been resumed or will resume soon. And so with that, when Oregon and Baylor game was scheduled, the home and away, Oregon was a part of the Pac-12. Well, now we know they're a part of the Big Ten. But they already they do want to resume the series with the Beavers. And so with that, somebody's got to go off their schedule. And unfortunately for Baylor, and I know you may say unfortunately, we know how good Oregon is, that series will now be off. And I hate that because I just look forward to those type of games, Baylor or whoever, to play each other.
Well, it's a good day for people who are interested in TV times and scheduling news because we had the massive drop of all the Big 12 game times and network assignments and all of those types of things that came out a few hours ago. And so I haven't been able to pour through all of that just yet. And I'm not sure like what kind of commentary I would have. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they put Colorado at 2:30 on ES. Like, I don't know if there's anything substantial that sticks out and is all that noteworthy from what's otherwise just a typical practice. But I know people get very into knowing like, hey, what weekend in Ames are we hosting so-and-so, and is that a 2:30 kick? Awesome. I'm going to go to that game. I'm going to tailgate. So it's fun to be able to start planning. On the flip side of that fun is when then you get news about scheduling that's unforeseen. And in the case of Baylor, especially very unfortunate. That's a massive bummer. That's a kick in the pants. And it's just more of the same kind of negative news that's been surrounding this program for like 1.5 to 2 years now. Can't seem to catch a break in any way, shape, or form. Maybe DJ Lagway, they caught a break. Maybe Joe Klanderman's going to make the defense great again or something. But
there's just not a lot of fun to be found. And this is something coming up that you were very excited about, been excited about for years now, ever since it was announced. At one point in time, Baylor and Oregon kind of like staring in a little bit of a mirror back at least in the 2010s with the way that the Baylor program was.
Hell, they had the chrome
along.
helmets and the glitz and glamour.
Yeah, I mean, they had the green similarity, but they were like an Oregon of Texas in a way, as far as the chrome gold helmets and the flashy uniforms, the flashy offense, the just superb athletes, and just kind of the outsider that's kind of disrupting things, which Oregon's not so much an outsider now at this point. But like there was a lot of crossover that would have made an Oregon Baylor game in like 2013 really fascinating to watch. And we never got to see that. So, hey, you'll take them playing years later with different coaches and everything's different than it was. It's still a game against Oregon at home. And that'll be cool as hell. And then it's a game going up to Eugene, and that'll be cool as hell. And now there's no Oregon game at all. And so that just, that sucks, man. I don't know how much Oregon fans care. I've seen a couple already that are from Texas or have family in Texas, and we're looking forward to making the trip and just seeing something a little bit different. I'm sure, though, like as you mentioned, that reconfiguring and rescheduling the Oregon State series is a really big deal. So I think that's something that they're happy about. But yeah, this sucks from the Baylor perspective for sure. And you look at their future schedules, and Doug McNamee's got a lot of work to do. I mean, the Auburn game, you had the big road trip to Auburn this year that turns into a road trip to Atlanta instead. And so that has some of the shine taken off of it as far as that home and home goes. And you have this Oregon series, and now that's off for the next 2 years. And so you're left next year with Incarnate Word and a trip to Air Force. And what was supposed to be this jewel.
Yeah, they will. No, go ahead.
This jewel of an Oregon game is suddenly not there. And then 28, you only had North Texas, and then the road trip to Oregon. So now you only have North Texas. And in 29, you only have North Texas. And in 2030, you only have La Tech. So they better get the schedule. And even though we saw during COVID, it doesn't have to take 5 years or 7 years out to do it. But at one point in time when they were at Auburn and Oregon and all these teams, you're like, hell yeah, man. And now it's just, it's just not at all what you hoped it would be. So that's really terrible news for the fans who are hoping to go up to Eugene and see a game, or for the Oregon fans hoping to come to Texas. But I get it to some extent.
Yeah, Trey Wallace will join us here momentarily. The thought and what I get, the note on replacing Oregon, that'll be announced sometime soon. That sucks. But I get Oregon's side of it. They don't want to have less than 7 home games. And so they would have one of those years they would be playing at Baylor 27. So they get the rivalry with this is an intense series, the Civil War. They get that back. That's great, but at the expense of playing Baylor home and away. And so Baylor will try to, pivot and find somebody that they'll announce, I think, pretty soon.
Impossible to, unless you're scheduling Ohio State, I don't know how you're scheduling somebody better than Oregon. That's definitely going to be a near impossible task, and better be somebody substantial, because as I just pointed out, there's not much meat on the bone coming up these next few years. Very little outside of that Oregon series. So there's a lot of work to do as far as scheduling goes.
Yeah, that's and there's going to be other bigger games. Some of the chatter in the chat room, and thanks for all of you that get in there, are Notre Dame and Texas, or the other series, and with also some of how when you had the 12 teams and some didn't make it, with comments about, well, why should we play a game like Ohio State, or why should we play a game against X, Y, and Z? There's a little bit more of that going on. The North Carolina, South Carolina series, just a couple of days ago, they like right on top of each other, and that series, of course, has been moved off as well.
Yeah, there's some schedules that are getting configured because, conferences who didn't play a certain number of games have now changed that rule. So, yeah, the SEC's having to pivot and account for another conference game, and they're not the only ones. So it's having a domino effect on some of these future schedules, and that's all understandable. It depends on which exact matchup we're talking about, whether it sucks for you as a fan or not. But this definitely sucks for Baylor. There's not a lot to wrap your arms around, and I know for a fact that people were very much looking forward to, regardless of the shape of the program, the Oregon series, and had been for a good long while, ever since it was announced. So
just another thing to scratch off the list. And like I said, I don't think you can replace them unless, Georgia's waiting to be scheduled or somebody of that caliber. That's what you had, and now you don't. So we'll see what they do. But, it's another bummer.
We await Trey Wallace, Outkick, to join us here in a minute. Let's go through a couple of other stories, including he was at SEC spring meetings, and the conference voted, and Greg Sankey announcing that the next to the last weekend of the regular season will no longer be what they called Cupcake Week, as they will play conference games in that next to the last weekend. It's got to be a big-time talking point, even during discussion of who's going to make the playoffs or not. And the SEC had been doing this for a long, long time. And then people started to analyze it a little bit. It wasn't questioning if they had great teams or how good the conference was, but it was like, man, you're playing UT Chattanooga right before you might have the Auburn and Alabama game or whatever. And so they voted, the ADs voted to play a conference game the next to the last weekend of the regular season. And as Greg Sankey said, it's the end of Cupcake Week in the SEC starting in 2027.
It's interesting that he said it that way, because I feel like if you had said that and you were non-SEC or whatever, that you'd get some pushback on calling it Cupcake Week. I vividly recall the conversations that I came across on social media, on various forums, in person, where, well, we should have that because we played such a tough schedule, so we deserve to play the Citadel in week 11 or whatever. So I like this as a fan with no skin in the game. I like that we're going to get instead a few pretty good matchups, I would think, just based on playing conference games. You're going to have some good ones, and certainly better than what you were getting with Auburn playing Hofstra or the likes of those types of matchups. They're good for the smaller schools, so I do consider that, and I don't know how they make up for not being able to play Alabama. I guess they just played earlier in the season. I mean, it's still a possibility, but there are some things to figure out there logistically. But I like this as a fan. I want to see better matchups, especially deep in the season, not one league kind of take the weekend off almost as a whole to just catch a breather before we get into the stretch run.
Trey Wallace was at SEC spring meetings, and right there in the middle of it, it's been quite the day, Trey, and we just discussed the SEC in the next to the last week. But I want to get straight to the meat of the Cantwell and Cruz, the bill. We put up bullet points of what is included. I know you were waiting for that information when you and I traded text yesterday evening. So in your opinion, from what you've seen in it and what you've learned in it, where does this go in your opinion?
This is going to lead to plenty of arguments over the next 3 to 4 months. I think, so looking at it from an SEC standpoint where I'm at now, just as I would if I was at Big Ten meetings or Big 12 meetings. I think that, you have to take in the instance, okay, when there's language in there about potentially a super conference per se, and I'm making up a word there. What does the media rights look like moving forward? I think that there's also how do you enforce how does the federal government enforce the House settlement? They say they're going to form a committee that's going to make sure that the House settlement is taken care of and everybody's playing by the rules. But guys, they can't even get the rules straight now. So what makes you think the federal government is going to be able to do that? Now, I'm not saying it can't be done. And I'm not saying, I think there are a number of things that are good about this bill. I think I think with the transfers, I think that's a good idea. I think when you look at the overall standpoint of, eligibility, I like the 5-year calendar. There are some antitrust things that are going to be interesting to me when it comes to like the thing about the coach's salary. Like, stop. Are you going to go tell Jimmy Sexton that he can't get Lane or whoever, a bunch of money on their contracts because it's got to fall underneath this? Like, so what I'm saying is, obviously there's going to be a number of different things over 111 pages that you have to sit back and you look at and you're like, all right, is this going to work? Is the SEC in the Big Ten? Because really, and I hate to be blunt like this, but in terms of the language, if you're above 75%. What this means is ACC, Big 12, Mountain West Conference, Pac-12, blah, blah, blah. If they all join forces and they said, we want to pool our media rights together, okay, they could essentially do that. But the problem is you're going to have the SEC and the Big 10 over here raking in essentially $1 billion. And they're going to sit there and be like, okay, y'all can do what you want. We're not joining you, but go ahead. And so that's where the line is going to get drawn in this, in my opinion, is what, and it's the same thing that's going on with the CFP right now. Like, you're looking at the Big 10 and the SEC for answers because we already know what the Big 12 and the ACC and others want. And they want the same thing as the Big 10. So it's as if, let's throw another grenade into everything that's going on in college athletics. And let's think we can get something done on the federal level, which, again, I think there's a chance at this, but people have to understand that if this does not get approved by August, when they go into recess, I'm talking about Congress, I don't see how this thing gets passed. We have midterms coming up, elections. I know we ain't talking politics on here, but I'm just being honest. Like, these people aren't going out and stumping, for votes because they saved college athletics. It's not how it works in today's society. So I think that there's an opportunity, but like, I'm sitting here, full transparency, I'm sitting here at SEC meetings, and I was texting with David last night. Like, I knew this thing was coming. I was curious to see if they were going to drop this bad boy during SEC meetings. And I'm not saying they did it on purpose. I'm not. I am saying it's a weird coincidence that they dropped it 6 hours before Greg Sankey is going to speak with us here in about 1 hour. Obviously, he's not going to say anything tonight. So there's a lot that goes into this, guys. And I think we're only just scratching the surface, and we're going to be arguing over this for the next 3 to 4 months.
Trey, any immediate comments from people you've talked to around there, or is everybody just kind of still figuring out their own thoughts and reading through this at this point?
I think you're getting everybody kind of still figuring out their thoughts. I mean, and I'll be honest, like, I knew what some of the stuff would be in the bill. Like, I knew the gist of it, but it still took all 20 of us reporters around here. Some of us hadn't even gone through it all yet. To sit here and thank goodness for AI, right? Like, it's the first time. That's the first time a writer will ever say that to me, like me, ever say thank goodness for AI. But it is like I think I'm on page 95 right now of 111, and I think that like we've heard from different athletic directors. From Chris Delaconte spoke with us. We heard from Greg Byrne at Alabama, Oklahoma, Tennessee has spoken about this. So and so. They all want federal help, but at the same time, you have to be willing to get that help, and you have to be willing to be governed. Everybody's out here saying, oh man, we really need help with this stuff. Please govern us. Okay, you want to be governed, it means you got to play by the rules. And if you don't play by the rules, you're going to get in trouble. Like, that's the thing. Like, these ADs, God bless them, they can preach all day long about, sure, we want guidelines. We want us to tell you what us to do with our money and how much we can spend or how much we can't spend and blah, blah, blah. Okay, don't bite off more than you can chew. So that's where I think there's going to be a little bit of a double standard, if I'm honest with you, because you're going to have a lot of people preaching that they love this federal help, but deep down on the inside, they're like, oh boy, I don't really know if I want this federal help. Maybe we can get this done on our own. And that's why I say this. I think, in talking with multiple people about this, you're going to see the Big Ten and the SEC. I think they're going to come up with their own rules on how to govern their conference because of one reason. They can't sit around and wait for Congress to do something. Guys, they've been sitting around for 4.5 years waiting on the SCORE Act, and that thing died in Washington, D.C. last week. So, again, are you ready to risk it on federal legislation that you don't know if it's going to get passed or not? That's the problem.
Yeah, and it's very interesting too. I mean, I've hammered home the part about, well, we want to be governed, but then the moment you try to govern them, they sue you in state court, and it's like one of the most maddening things about all of this. But there's been a lot of that breakaway talk. I mean, Jerry Moorhead and Kirby Smart's on the record saying, I'm telling our president, I think it's a good idea. Moorhead's going, you know what? The more we think about it, like, I think it might be a good idea. You have the Jamie Pollard quotes, which I think was just kind of stating the truth, but then everybody took that as though he called everybody like slurs or something like that. Like he was just kind of stating the obvious, but everybody took that personal and almost like a challenge, I think, in some ways. So do you think that, like, because of just sort of the language going on, that the idea of the big breakaway, the idea of the Super League, is that actually more realistic now than ever before? Or is that sort of off in the distance and kind of a pipe dream at this point?
Here's what I think that could actually happen. I think, let's just use the SEC, for example, since I'm here. What if the SEC goes out and adds 4 teams? Now, according to the rules of this new federal legislation, and mind you, it's only 6 hours old, so don't get on to me on social media, okay? There might, and I'm running on coffee right now. There are, essentially, the SEC and the Big Ten cannot combine forces for media rights underneath this deal.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean the SEC or the Big Ten can't go out and snag Clemson, Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, and continue adding to their conference. So that's where, to me, it gets interesting. Not that there was going to be a so-called breakaway. It's if the SEC and the Big Ten finally say, well, wait a minute. The way around this is, let's just go add teams to our own conference, have at it, and then we'll figure out the new television deal. Like, breaking away, guys, just, I don't, the SEC and the Big Ten can govern themselves. Cool. That's fine. But the first thing that's going to happen that's going to freak everybody out, and I brought this up yesterday, is what happens when, let's just say, Greg Sankey or the SEC rules against Ole Miss, does something against Ole Miss in regards to eligibility or an NIL payment or a suspension, whatever, and Ole Miss takes them to court.
Yeah.
So you're going to have Ole Miss versus the SEC in a courtroom? Like, everybody wants to talk about breaking away and doing their own thing. But what happens when your own tenants inside the house get agitated and they sue you and you make it look even worse? I'm just saying, like, this is going to be wild. And I think people are kind of underselling a little bit how big a deal this is. And let's not forget, there's another thing that's out there that's happening. The House settlement, the plaintiffs, they're going to court in early June. And if the plaintiffs win, a.k.a. Jeffrey Kessler and everyone besides the NCAA, they'll be able to use multimedia rights companies as a way to pay for third-party NIL deals. So while everybody's paying attention to Congress, Jeffrey Kessler and all the House plaintiffs are over here like, okay, cool. Let's keep flying underneath the radar, because there could be a big decision that comes in early June that shakes college athletics to its core again.
Trey, first of all, because I know what kind of the last 3 or 4 days you've had, and you are busting it, and you've got a press conference. We really do appreciate you finding time, and just a handful of more questions. We appreciate it. So, you have what is, like, for example, Craig, you have to want to be governed. That's what Sankey said when the House settlement was released last spring, that you have to be governed. And then yet, like you said, nobody really wants to be governed. So it's just like a hamster wheel in a way.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, I'm bringing up something from, recently, and I'm sorry that my phone was going off, but yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, if you want to be governed, if you want, let's just say, to start your own rules, okay, that's fine. But are you really going to have a chain of command like the NCAA or the College Sports Commission? Like, the reason why we're talking about governing in conferences is because they don't agree with what the College Sports Commission is doing. By the way, for folks out there that don't know, the College Sports Commission was created because of the House settlement. Mm-hmm. The CSC handles all NIL guidelines, eligibility. But the problem is none of the schools around the country signed the agreement with the CSC. So there are no rules right now. When a coach over here at the SEC, like Mike Elko, tells you there are no rules, they're literally, folks, are no rules. Everyone's breaking rules. And when I say everyone, I mean that hyper. But I'm saying in general, guys, we're at a point now where somebody's going to have to make a decision because this is getting stupid. There's some of the things out there right now, the amount of money being spent. And Elko said it. Elko said, look, if this keeps up in 2 years, the athletic department is going to be bankrupt. And I agree with him. I come from right. Like that's A&M. Like I come from a small school, University of South Alabama. And I've talked to folks around there. It's like you have a hard time keeping up with just about anything. And so I'm just saying, like, there's going to be a ripple effect in college athletics that, some folks have been saying, hey, watch out, could be coming. They might have to eliminate sports. Like, I'm telling you, like, it's coming if they don't figure this out because there's just too much money being spent and everybody can't keep up with everybody. Guys, there's athletic directors above me right now that are working on let's just say a $20 million budget. And the guy sitting across the table from him is working with an $80 million budget. Mm-hmm. That goes to show you how crazy it is within these conferences.
So, Trey, I know you're not like an expert on all things government, but as best you know, like this isn't as much as it's kind of rattling cages today. This isn't just going through and tomorrow it's enacted. There is a long road to go. So it's something that might not even happen in the future, although something has to happen, as you're pointing out. But I mean, what do you foresee as far as this traveling of this proposal over the next few months, and what does that look like in your opinion?
So here's how it's been laid out to me, essentially. Don't hold me to it. I think next week you're going to start having hearings on this. You will have amendments that are added to this bill over the next month and a half, 2 months. Pretty much people are going to have their input. Like they're going to get look, if they think something out of line, they're going to get something added. And then you're going to have to look, then you're going to have hearings on this thing. Like it's going to be a 3-month process. That's why the August 1st date is so important, because if they don't get anything done by then, guys, you're getting into November time. It's like I said earlier, it's election season. Like it ain't college athletics season. It might be on the field, but it's not when it comes to the political landscape. So that's why they're going to, that's why it'll be a fascinating month and a half ahead, because we're going to see if this thing has any legs. And I'm just telling you, like if there are some out there, you guys saw it last week. The National Black Caucus came out against the SCORE Act and essentially said, look, all SEC schools, players need to boycott. If they come out against this is going to be another problem for college athletics. And that's why there's conversations going on upstairs right now about the NAACP, the National Black Caucus. You better had figure out your priorities, because you're about to ask some people to back certain things in college athletics and you need their help when it comes to getting it passed. So that's why I say this thing is complicated. It's going to take a while. There's going to be hearings, arguments. You're going to be, reading about it. And if you get sick and tired of reading about it, I don't blame you, because I'm already sick and tired of writing about it.
Well, we've made that comment really almost for it seemed like for back when they were trying to get to the House settlement, that it is numbing to me. But we have to cover it. It's what we do because it affects the one sport we cover like hell, and that's college football.
I make that joke, but in reality, this is the world I live in now. This is the world you guys live in now. Like this is where we're at, because we're sitting around here still trying to figure out answers, guys. When NIL started 5 years ago, Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher were going at each other's throats before they arrived here in Destin, Florida, about how much money Jimbo spent on his roster at Texas A&M, and somebody named Sliced Bread off a message board. Think about that. Like that's how far we've come. But in the process of coming so far, we haven't built anything. All we've done is say, okay, go spend money on NIL. We'll figure out ways around it. Do your thing, but don't be governed. Has anybody gotten in trouble for NIL in 5 years? Anybody? Not really.
No, not really. No.
No.
I mean, not like hard.
No,
you know what I mean? Like you get
not like in the days of old when you got hammered. You got hammered. Yeah. No one fears the NCAA or the College Sports Commission right now either.
And I promise you, there are schools out there that are not only bending the rules, they're snapping them in half. But again, what's the NCAA going to do about it? What's the College Sports Commission going to do about it? If they try, they're going to end up in a courtroom. That's the problem right now. People can rely on courtrooms too much now in college athletics, and it's come back to bite them in the ass.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just a hamster on a wheel. Just keep spinning. And then they come to reckon with the entities that are supposed to police them, and they are those entities in so many ways. So it's bizarre how all that works.
Wild.
Yeah, it really is. So there's like a ton of bullet points over what was put out there. What did you get a bigger chuckle at? The Lane Kiffin rule, the idea that we're going to limit salaries for head coaches, or the idea of like pooling TV rights in the SEC and the Big Ten, just saying like, all right, cool, we'll get into bed with the American and the Big 12. And I mean, some of these things I'm all for it. Like some of these things I'm like, yeah, absolute no brainer. Let's limit transfers, eligibility and those things. But there's some of these I'm like, I just don't see anybody going for this.
Good luck getting the SEC and the Big Ten to agree on media rights and pooling media rights. Not happening. Like, stop. I wouldn't even talk about it anymore. Like it ain't gonna happen. Like you think I'm gonna be quiet with my voice here because I'm kind of in their building. You think the SEC is gonna get away from ESPN, who's got 3 different locations here at this resort? You think the Big Ten is gonna get away from Fox, or Fox is gonna let Big Ten get away from me? And by the way, I work for Fox. I can go ahead and tell you that ain't happening. So like it pooling media rights, it's a lot more to it than say, hey guys, y'all want to join the party? It's really, hey, everybody besides the Big Ten and SEC, y'all want to come join our party? And then we can pull everything together and see what we can get. And that, and again, I don't mean that like towards the Big 12. If the Big 12 wanted to, they could hop in with, the ACC, pull their media rights together and make a lot of money. It's just, what do the other conferences do that stands out to me? The American, the Conference USA, the Mountain West, the new Pac-12 that's coming back. I could go on and on and on. Yeah. The Sun Belt Conference, like that's where the problem's going to lie.
And it almost feels like that is in turn what creates a breakaway, or if whatever you want to refer to it, a separation that a lot of people have been talking about of some form or fashion, is whether it was intentional or not, where like it just feels like all signs are pointing to there is some kind of a crack that's going to fracture at some point. Does that make sense? Whether intentionally or not, because we're not just going to keep pretending like Miami of Ohio and Alabama live under the same roof in 2026 like they did more so in 2006.
It's coming to a head, guys. And it's coming to a head quick. Like I'll be honest, like I say that as a guy that went to a Sunbelt school.
Right.
Like it's coming to a head. And it's not going to be pretty. It's not. You're going to see schools across the country have to cut more sports if this keeps up. You're going to see bickering between conferences. You're going to see, some conferences say, help us, Big Ten, SEC, which I agree. Like, help us. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, Greg Sankey's doing his job as the commissioner of the SEC. He works for the presidents and chancellors of the SEC, not anybody else in the country. Tony Petitti, the same way for the Big Ten. Brett Yormark, same way with the Big 12. Jim Phillips, same way with the ACC. I could go on and on. At some point, though, the others are going to have to figure out how to survive this thing because the SEC and the Big Ten just aren't coming to their aid. And I'm not sitting here and like, again, I'm not taking up for the SEC or Big Ten here. I think there are some things that they have to come to the table to, but at the same time, it's just not their job. Like they got to worry about their own.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like that's the part. I mean, they're not going to say, okay, cool, I'll give you some of my money from ESPN, or the Big Ten's not going to say, okay, I'll give you $40 million for my Big Ten, my contract with Fox. It's just not going to happen. It's not the world we're living in.
No, and if they've been doing everything else but that, they've been trying to basically make more and more and more and more, and they can, and that's what makes it. Both of them, the 800-pound gorilla. Trey, great stuff, man. We really appreciate it. I know it's been a busy day. Appreciate your time. Have a great week. Good luck with the whatever Sankey says, if anything, tonight.
He ain't gonna say. Yeah, I'm gonna try to read tonight. I'm gonna try to close my eyes, and I can promise you, here in about an hour, Sankey's gonna say about two things. I haven't had time to read it.
Yeah,
I'll read it and let you know how I feel. There you go.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah,
class
I
adjourned.
was trying to say, good luck reading the 111 pages, Trey. I'll just defer to you to figure out what all that says, man.
Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trey Wallace Outkick with us. Second time we've had him on in the last, 8 to 12, 15 days, and he has been money, and appreciate his time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack, and a lot that we talked about right there. And yeah, I mean, the bill on its surface looks great. A lot of great ideas, as we talked about at the start of the show. But then there's some parts of it that you just, like I say, side eye sometimes about certain things. But I think you even more than side eye some of those things, particularly a pooling of rights for the SEC and Big Ten. It would have to come with serious concessions from the other leagues that want to be a part of that pooling. And what could you possibly have to offer that would get them to agree to that when you have zero leverage whatsoever? I mean, the only leverage, and it's not even leverage actually, but the only thing you could even go for is, well, it's for the good of college football, or think about the sport, think about the whole system, think about what happens if this continues to fracture and crack and break and whatnot. And I don't know, maybe in another era that would hit home and maybe lead to some concessions, but I just don't think we're living in that era. We're living in the we need money all the time, every minute of every hour of every day, just to keep our head above water. And yeah, even when a Texas A&M is expressing concern, like if Texas A&M is worried about money, then everybody's screwed, except for maybe Texas. Like, that's about it.
No, eventually, yeah.
But even eventually, it'll be to them too. Because
but eventually, there's nobody else to play, and you're in your own neighborhood.
Well, it's not that you wouldn't play; it's just that like this system's unsustainable. If A&M can't even keep its head above water, well, then what you're doing needs to basically be nuked and started all over from scratch somehow. So yeah, I mean, it's one thing if like Coastal Carolina's having trouble funding their whatever program. I don't think too many people outside of that region are going to blink at that, and they can understand that's sort of the collateral damage. But if Texas A&M's coming out and saying, hell, we're having problems too, and we're discussing how to fund tennis now, well, that's a whole different animal.
Arkansas,
like Arkansas, who's making SEC money. So yeah, those are, when you look back on the documentary that'll be done on whatever this looks like at the end, you'll be like, one of the warning signs was when Arkansas canceled its tennis programs. A team in the SEC making way more money than most, making moves like that, maybe at the time didn't register as heavily as it should have. But then you look back on and you're like, oh yeah, that was definitely a warning sign of just how unsustainable this thing is.
One thing, Amy jumped in the chat, and we appreciate her, because I do remember reading this, and when Trey mentioned that they can add teams. This is if this was to get passed, which it doesn't appear. I don't know. For instance, the act prevents any league earning more than $1 billion in revenue on its 2025 tax returns from merging or consolidating with another conference, or this is what, expanding to add members. So they are blocked out, and that's another thing. Well, they can't go get Clemson or Florida State or whoever they wanted to add 4 teams, because that's a part of it. That's another part that I'm sure those 2 mega conferences are going to go, nope, thank you.
Well, yeah, it prevents that if they agree to this.
No, that's what I'm saying.
But they don't agree to it. They don't have to be beholden to that. But Amy, I'm glad you pointed out, because it is 100 plus pages that even the reporters on the ground covering are still pouring through, and all we've seen is a lot of bullet points. And even Trey points out, like, a good way to summarize is Claude or Chat GPT or whatever your preference may be, if you have one. But that's also not always right. So you got to be careful. AI is wrong all the time about stuff, even simple stuff. So don't just take it at face value. I think most people watching this probably understand that, but it is amazing how wrong it is about a lot of stuff, even simple stuff. It will help, though, to summarize and get through 111 pages or what that is. And Amy, I'm glad you point that one particular part out about adding teams, because yeah, I think we mentioned at the top of the show, the prevention of those two specifically, because they're the ones that make over $1 billion. Like, they wouldn't be allowed under that to merge and create the Super League, but it also would prevent them from adding teams as a workaround. So yeah, that part of it is very notable, that they would not be allowed to add teams. But again, that's if they decide to go along with this and go with some of what Trey said or whatever. But if they start to do the workarounds, call it a breakaway, call it a split, call it whatever you want to call it. But there's a lot of arrows pointing at just massive change on the horizon.
Give up money to help the others, which is like socialism, right? And
in so many ways.
You cannot add anybody else to make your breakaway include 5 to 8 or 12 others that are really good at playing football.
Yeah, I think the part with the ACC is really interesting. I've seen the prognostications about what the Big 12 can do and who they can pick up, with the idea being that the top brands get taken by the SEC and the Big 10. And I think that's something that could happen. I don't know that it's just a slam dunk. The Big 12 would just scoop up whoever they wanted after that. I don't know what the ACC's got as far as alternative plans. And with stuff like this floating around, I don't know how realistic it is that there is massive amounts of change. You would assume that those leagues would want to add a Florida State or Miami if they could at all possible. But what does the money look like? What does the landscape look like? We're going to find out soon. We're here in 2026 now. We got, I don't want this to be a daily topic for the next 4 years, but always a chance something could happen a bit sooner or around that time. It's anybody's guess as to what that world looks like on the other side of it.
We're going to take a break here. Hope you've enjoyed our guests, from Pete Mundo to Trey Wallace, and also Tyler Hancock with Kansas baseball. A few more football stories to get to. I brought up the Oregon Baylor series. There's another series because of the one that we're going to show you. We mentioned it, involving the Civil War, and just a couple of other nuggets as well in college sports, college football, and more. We do appreciate your time. If you have not yet hit the like button, please do. If you have subscribed to the channel, thank you. Spread the word. Craig SMOAK and David SMOAK, The SMOAK Show on 365 Sports. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
I have a lot of friends reach out to me about buying vehicles for their fleet and their business, and I always recommend Allen Samuels. You see a lot of businesses running different brands, but I really think Rams are the best looking ones out there. They're going to take care of you. They're going to make sure that you get what you need, and they're always going to take care of you on the service side and the sales side.
Like Allen Samuels always said, Waco has a lot to offer, and so do we at Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Texas
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
We are on YouTube with 365 Sports, the Smoke Show. Also, thank you to those who watch us, and a lot of you do, on the Twitter feed, the at David Smoke. We appreciate that. That's something Craig brought up about a month and a half ago. Hey, we need to get the show up on the timeline, and there are a big chunk of you that watch us, and thank you much for that. The Civil War, I mentioned it, Oregon and Oregon State. The series will resume. And this was something that came down late yesterday. It also, as I mentioned, maybe a segment or two ago, affects Baylor and their series with Oregon that now will be canceled. So here is the Civil War in Oregon and Oregon State, the Ducks and the Beavers, and in a series that dates back forever. Oregon dominates the overall series. They've won the last 3. The last time they played was in 2023. And so they will get themselves back together again starting in 2028 and through 2032, with 1 year, 2030, that seems to be a hiccup.
Yeah, this is great news for Beavers fans. I think there's probably a large segment of Ducks fans that are also happy about this. I'd imagine there's a sliver that we're hoping to just box out Oregon State from here on out, big brother them to death. But I think this is good for college football to have games like this and the rivalries like this. So not just one-off, but 4 games lined up over the next few years. And you played over 100 times. You've got tons and tons of history. These are the types of games that need to remain, and these are the types of games that college football needs to have in its holster at all times. So yeah, you can have your Oregon versus Clemson at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta every once in a while, but I still want to see Oregon State every single year if at all possible. And with the Pac separation, didn't know how that would work out. A lot of bad feelings, but I give the Oregon schools credit. They realize it's beneficial for both of them. It's great for the fans in their home state, Oregonians, to see these two teams play each other. And I wish that there was more of that, although now it's increasingly more difficult because of the extra conference game. But I know there was a lot of bad blood with Texas and Oklahoma, but I think it's a crying effing shame that Bedlam's not still around. I think that for years and years, A&M and Texas not playing each other, that was ridiculous. And I understand, again, bad blood and politics and all those things, but the sport's not better because A&M and Texas didn't play for over a decade. I don't think the sport's going to be better because Bedlam doesn't occur. Now, will most people have it registered? Probably not, but it's not about satisfying the entire country all at the same time, which is seemingly what a lot of people want to move towards is, well, what about the TV ratings? So long as 20 million gamblers watch the games and college football is totally fine. It's like, I don't totally agree with that. I think you need to have the hardcores just as satisfied as the casuals, but this is definitely a move for the hardcores. That's great, and I'm glad to see it. The only downside is that, as somebody who saw that Baylor-Oregon game get scheduled like a decade ago and get all the way to where you're 1 year out from it and now it gets canceled, that is a freaking bummer and a half for Baylor fans. And just now a pivot to go schedule somebody that it's hard to imagine will be anywhere close to the level of Oregon. Maybe they surprise me. Maybe they get one of like the 10 teams that would be better than Oregon to play, but I highly doubt it at this point with more of a squeeze on schedules than ever before. So that's the only downside to me is I was looking forward to Baylor, Oregon, a long time coming, but I'll take the trade-off being the Civil War. It's not like Oregon went out and scheduled some neutral site NIL BS, right? They're bringing back they're maintaining a big time rivalry, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I don't like the trend that's been going on now and then you still have teams that are playing alphas against each other, and I hope that's the part that when I get wired for college football season, it's not because the season begins, it's because of those early games that are bangers. And there are still plenty of them, but it does seem like there's probably less and less as some of this is happening.
Yeah, I mean, and then this one varied as far as where it was on the schedule based on the years, but this is just one of those foundational in-state rivalries like Bedlam, like Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, so on and so forth. Florida State playing Miami. Like, we got to have those games. You am I giving too many examples here?
No, you're not.
I can keep going. Georgia Tech, like they need to play each other, and so it's been
Nebraska.
a bummer to see.
Yeah.
I mean, sort of. I feel like that one.
No,
doesn't really matter anymore.
They screwed it up. I would say another word. They screwed it up. Then they tried to resume it. Now they both have gone in their different ways. They're not going to play each other because it's Big Ten SEC. I hate it, even if Nebraska lost 12 in a row. It's just something about that rivalry, and I'm not trying to get off my lawn. I hate the fact that it was interrupted, and it was selfish that it was from those that ran the Big 12 early on because they protected some rivalries, but not that one.
Yeah, and that's where I think Texas was influential to some degree. Was it on them at all that took place? I'm trying to remember the history.
The main thing, there were some things. Yeah, there was some politicking going on. I don't want to blame everything on UT.
No.
There were things that they said, no, we got to make sure we do this. They knew what they were doing.
But they got to play Oklahoma every
But
year.
they're in the South. Nebraska's in the North. They're not going to play each other every year. But there was if Oklahoma had been put in the North and Texas was in the South, and I'm just using this as an example. This is not all about Texas. I'm not trying to blame them for all the. Had OU been in the North and Texas was in the South, they would have played each other a protected game every freaking year.
Yeah, there should have been a protected game. Just not a lot of foresight, I guess, as far as that went, and just a stupid business move to not have Nebraska, Oklahoma every year. Like, you look back on that and you're like, what a dumb decision. Like, you make that happen however it needs to happen. You don't go, well, they're a different division, so we can't screw that noise. You find a way to make that happen. Hell, come to an agreement on how it's an extra conference game even doesn't count as a conference, like something to have them play. But I just feel like the magic of like the 70s are just, it's been too long. It doesn't register. There's been a couple times where it's sort of rekindled and they play each other and there was a set of circumstances, but the only people romanticizing that were people who were like your age and not so much a younger crowd that relates to this being a massive rivalry.
They played in a Big 12 championship game towards the end of Nebraska being in the conference. Last time they played in a game that really had any consequences was 2001, and then OU winning 2000 that launched them along with other wins to win the national title. Then they had the Eric Crouch throwback, and that was it. So it's been 25 years.
Yeah, so, I mean, people try to kind of still, like, people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, maybe even a little bit younger, try to look back on, like, well, Switzer and Osborne. It's like, man, we are so far removed from that. Like, none of the younger fans would guess Nebraska in 100 tries if you were to say who are Oklahoma's biggest rivals. Like, if they weren't up on the history, right? They would go a lot of different directions. 100 they would, but you know what I'm saying there. It would.
Are you trying to make it harder on me?
No, I'm just saying,
it's
like,
another loss for Nebraska.
Like, it's a shame that went the way that it did, and it's good to see them maintaining what they can while they can and not letting another rivalry that was great go off and die in the wilderness like they did with Nebraska, Oklahoma to some degree. So, yeah, I'm glad to see Civil War. I want to see as many of those types of games put together on the calendar every single season. That's the best version of college football, not some random ass team with a top 25 ranking in some random ass NFL stadium in week 1. Like, we'll still get jazzed for that. We'll still be pumped to watch a Clemson LSU from New Orleans or Atlanta or wherever, but not at the expense of some of the great rivalries. So, good on the state of Oregon schools to get this done, even though Baylor fans are definitely bummed out about it, but I know most people don't care.
I just wanted to be able to and we don't go to every home game. There's some we do, but I wanted to watch that game, be at a game where they're playing at McLean Stadium, but that's off the table now. All right, a couple of more notes. By the way, Nebraska OU, I think, play again like in 2030. Couple of other notes. The ADs, there were 16 ADs in the SEC. Brett McMurphy and On3 polled all of them and asked them what do they want when it comes to the college football playoff. And here is the answer. 8 of the 14 ADs that responded say They want 24 teams. It's not what Sankey wants, but they do. And then we'll leave that up, Rez, and I'll get to it. One of the ADs voted for 20. That's a number we don't even hear about. 4 of them said 16. And then there was one vote to leave it where it is, damn it, at 12. So 14 of the 16, but 8 of them said no. Again, anonymously, 8 of them said they wanted the 24 teams, which is against the grain of their commissioner, at least as of now.
Yeah, and leave this up if you will. So I would just be really curious to know of who these exact teams are. I mean, are they the better teams that are already making it pretty much every year that want to ensure they make it every year? Like, are those 8 votes? Are they Georgia and Texas and Alabama and who is it comprised of? I commend the one person who said 12 team because I'm gonna keep saying this. Fight all you want to, SEC and Big Ten. Fight all you keep fighting. Keep the 12 team around for as long as possible rather than moving to a 24 team monstrosity. And I'm probably more open to 24 teams ultimately than some people are, but I just think going from 12 to 24 is just a bridge too far, too quick. I don't like that. I would much prefer to go to 16 and then just see what that looks like. And maybe even just stop there because at some point it needs to stop. But at this rate, pretty soon we're going to be talking about, well, SEC secret commissioners were polled, their presidents, and there's 4 of them that won a 32-team playoff. Like, we are going to be at that point here pretty soon. And guess what? When we get to 32, guess what? There's 3 or 4 guys that they want a 40-team playoff. I mean, look at the basketball tournament. So I commend the 12-team vote. I'm on board with the 4 who voted 16. I think the person who voted for 20 is just probably that difficult person in your life.
Kiffin.
Yeah, probably.
No, it's an AD. I'm sorry, it's an AD. Yes,
but it's just probably a difficult person in general because they can't just answer. They've got to create a new answer. So you're not asking me about this, but I would do 20, just a random ass answer.
It might have been a blank where they could fill it out with.
I guess, but I don't know what the appeal of 20 would be. I guess just it's the best. It's better than 24 and better than 16, I guess, but just seems like a difficult person vote. And then, obviously half the league wants the 24. So again, I would like to know who the breakdown is because if it's South Carolina and Kentucky and Vanderbilt and schools of that nature, then you could understand why they want 24. If it's Tennessee, Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, so on, then I guess they just want to ensure that there's years where they basically would never, ever miss because all you have to do is just be in the top 25 and breathe and you'd be in the college football playoff. So, it's still interesting to look at. It'd be a lot more interesting if we knew the actual details of the schools, but clearly there's a preference to keep growing. And I'm just a fan of whoever voted for the 12-team playoff, whoever that was.
Yeah, I'd like to just see it hang around for a little bit.
And 16 would, I mean, I know people, but like 16 is just like the perfect number. It's just perfectly, no buys, all that, but nevertheless.
Yeah, it is. Okay, Rez, go back to the other part about the SEC coaches. Remember last year there was a big push because the Big Ten plays 9 conference games. The Big 12 plays 9 conference games. The SEC and ACC played 8, and now they're both going to get to 9. And the coaches in the SEC, this again, another Brett McMurphy, one of the best covering college football, is some of the coaches feeling as if by accepting and voting to go to 9 games, 9 SEC conference games, felt like they were misled. And that perhaps if they would have known the answer at the end, which was you're going to stay at the number it is, 16's the max, now feel like perhaps, wait a minute. We didn't agree to 9, so we could go to 24.
Well, I'd say that's more on their own plate of blame than it is on whoever is supposed to be explaining this to them. I think that's one of those things before you put a vote out, you better do your damnedest to know what you're doing. And you should be well aware based on the number of headlines and conversations from shows like this that there was no guarantee that there was 16. Now, I understand they're privy to information we're not privy to. But, I mean, if Sankey was telling them that, hey, we're absolutely going to 16, if you all agree on this and they didn't do that, then they have every right to feel misled.
Well, here's a quote from John Sumrall. Talking to the other coaches, they felt like by going to 9 games, it would be a shift to the playoff model, 16, but it didn't. They felt misled. Here's one more. I remember last year we were told if we went to 9 games, the Big Ten would vote for a 16-team playoff in 26. And I think we would, of course, still then be at 12. So,
well, I don't know where they got that part about the reassurance that had to come from the league office or their presidents or whoever. So I think that they were misled. It just wasn't necessarily by, outside forces trying to fool them. Maybe it was, but it sounds more like they didn't have their information correct, or the people relaying that information didn't have their information correct. I don't think there's necessarily like something nefarious at play here. But yeah, I would be pissed if I agreed to an extra game, especially if I'm not one of the more dominant teams, if I'm a borderline playoff team as is, and now you're taking on, maybe it's, and you can't even use Vanderbilt as like the easy matchup anymore, because clearly they're not an easy matchup, but rather than it being, I don't know, like South Carolina or something, it could very well be Georgia that you're now playing on top of whoever. It could be a night game at LSU that you're now having to play for that 9th game that otherwise would have been the Citadel. So yeah, I mean, I can see where that would be coming from. They have been pretty on board with the 16 and haven't budged from that, and that's led to a lot of this discussion because the Big Ten obviously wants more. So just part of the kind of tug of war going on. But yeah, I would be curious to know who told them that was some type of guarantee. And whether or not it was a belief that was like based around like truly thinking that was what was going to happen, or if it was just more of a wish and they took it as,
I think that's the direction that they were pretty much told. We need to add the 9th game, and if we do, then we have a better position of where we want the playoff to go. And then, of course, the Big Ten, during all that time, were the ones that came up with 16, and then pretty much rapid fire, they're at 24.
Yeah, and I would think moving forward, SEC would hope to see them have to have some sort of a mandated power game. I mean, we give, you need to give too, or whatever. Again, the tug of war. But yeah, I don't know. Without knowing who told them that information, impossible to have a fully formed opinion on it. But I can see where the misleading part comes from.
All right, so there we are with that. Rez, is there one more we want to get to? Then we got to take a break and come back with the wheel and also much more. I think that might have been it with the segment that we had. All right, let's do this. Craig Smoak, David Smoak, the Smoke Show here on 365 Sports, and we do appreciate your time, but we're not done. Andrew has dialed up what we have with the wheel, the quizzes, the polls, and more. This is the Smoke Show on 365 Sports, and we're back in a minute. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
I have a lot of friends reach out to me about buying vehicles for their fleet and their business, and I always recommend Allen Samuels. You see a lot of businesses running different brands, but I really think Rams are the best looking ones out there. They're going to take care of you. They're going to make sure that you get what you need, and they're always going to take care of you on the service side and the sales side.
Like Allen Samuels always said, Waco has a lot to offer, and so do we at Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
All right, it is time to spin the wheel. There we go. Well, one more drop of water out of this faucet. Good.
Do you have a favorite roller coaster or a go-to type of ride at a park?
Roller coaster spelled wrong. Just that jumped out at me. I'm sorry, but it just I just did. I won a lot of spelling bees. That's yeah. Not. I mean,
no, I don't have a favorite roller coaster, but if I'm picking rides at a park, I do like roller coasters. I'm not afraid of them like some people. Kind of have a deathly fear of them. I actually really enjoy them. Loved going to Busch Gardens in Tampa as a kid, and I can't remember the exact names of a couple of them there, but I really like those. Six Flags Over Texas, I was never a fan of. It was the biggest park closest by. It's still around, but it's just so damn hot when you would typically go. The Texas Giant was historic because it was like the largest wooden roller coaster, but that doesn't necessarily make it fun to ride because a wooden roller coaster is pretty jerky. I remember my Uncle Mike riding it and complaining about back pain, and he was only like in his 30s at the time. It's not like he had a reason to be having severe back pain at that point, but he was a big roller coaster enthusiast and was excited about Six Flags Over Texas and did not like the Texas Giant from what I remember. Yeah, I don't have a specific favorite roller coaster, but I do like them. It is more of my go-to. My favorite park, just to add on to that, I did really always enjoy more than any other going to Universal Studios in Orlando back in the day. I haven't been there in like over a decade. It's all the rides are different, but I really loved it back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Loved Universal Orlando.
I always liked Busch Gardens in Tampa, which is right there where we had so much family.
Busch Gardens is great. It's like half zoo, half
it's different.
park.
It's not really as much where you go there. There are rides. I always liked the atmosphere. And I always thought it was pretty cool because they had the distillery, the Busch, like you could walk through that and watch what they did. And even when I was younger, it just kind of like smelled the hops and stuff like that. That was pretty cool too. All right, now to the quizzes today. We have been on a roll. And let's see if we can continue with that. On May 27th of 1968, Major League Baseball officially approved an expansion that awarded franchises to San Diego alongside which other historic team? And that would be Montreal.
I don't have a recollection of 68 expansion, and I don't recall specifically reading about this move. I can get into the 90s, like the Braves and the Marlins and all the Diamondbacks and the new teams that were brought on. I don't remember reading much about the 60s, so I'll take your word for it.
Astros were in the very early 60s. And the Rockies and Blue Jays much later. It is the answer, Expos.
Yeah, the Rockies was with the Marlins, I believe.
All right. The answer is the Expos. Named after the city's Expo 67 World's Fair, this franchise broke the U.S. only barrier known as Nos Amores. They featured Hall of Famers Gary Carter, Andre Dawson, mascot Yuppie, and was also who was once ejected from a game by Tommy Lasorda, the Dodgers manager, following financial struggles, heartbreaking strike-shortened season in '94. The club relocated after 2004 to become the Washington Nationals. The '94 Expos were on their way to the best record in baseball before the season ended with a strike.
Yeah, they were. There's documentaries and all sorts of stuff that's been done on Montreal at this point. And Yuppie was a cool mascot. It's actually weird Tommy Lasorda's brought up because my late grandfather played in the Dodgers organization, like minor league system. And had some interactions with Lasorda, and somebody randomly at a get-together this past weekend were telling some Tommy Lasorda stories that had been passed down, and I don't think he was a favorite, at least based on the story that I heard of that particular locker room. He was not well. He was kind of known as a rat.
No, I was going to say a snitch. He was a snitch.
He would rat on the boys when they would miss curfew and go out and carouse and everything. Tommy Lasorda would snitch. And so there was a lot of dudes that didn't like him. So I actually heard another version of that story this past weekend. So it's just weird how I've probably not heard the name Tommy Lasorda one single time in the last 4.5 years, maybe even longer than that. Now I've heard it twice in 3 days. It's just, it's weird. But it's a shame the Expos aren't around. I know a lot of it's just nostalgia and you need to support the team and there's a lot of factors in play. But it would be cool if they could reestablish a team in Montreal, but I'm not sure where they are priority wise.
They had the best record in baseball. They were 74-40. The Yankees were 70-43, and the season was shut down. Now to the next quiz question. We want to know there. Which legendary big man is the only player in NBA history with 100 offensive and defensive win shares while posting a record career plus minus of exactly 10,000?
I don't know jack squat about win shares and some of that statistical language there. But let's see, 100 offensive and defensive win shares while posting a recent. I mean, Dirk wouldn't have been defensive win share. The other three are pretty damn good. I don't think Garnett would be above Shaq and Tim Duncan in a stat like that. And Shaq was great.
Boy, Duncan was a rebound.
I'd say Duncan, like, as far as something, this sounds like a Tim Duncan type of
Well, the Spurs
here.
are in the playoffs. They do need to win Game 6 since they lost last night. But let's say Tim Duncan. Damn.
The big fundamental defined winning consistency like no one else. Duncan is the only modern era player with a winning record against all 30 NBA franchises. Absurd. Plus 10,000 combined. Plus minus puts him over 1,400 points ahead of the next closest player, LeBron James. He also owns the all-time NBA playoff blocks record and is the only star to start on title teams across 3 different decades, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. I think I knew that last part, but still pretty cool to see that written out like that. So, yeah, got lucky narrowing that down. So, Andrew can rue the day that we once again got both of these trivia questions right.
All right, 2-0, the quizzes plus the wheel. And now to the poll results that you, our viewers, that we appreciate so much, your answers. How far will the Knicks go in the NBA Finals? Will they win it all? 24%. Lose in a 6 to 7 game series, whether it's against the Spurs or OKC? 53%. And then get blown out and swept, 23%.
I think I would go with losing a 6 to 7 game series right now. I think the Knicks are a really good team. Obviously, OKC's got the leg up now at this point on San Antonio. Both those teams are really, really good. If you're the Knicks, you just get to kick your feet up and hope this just continue to beat each other up. We're looking at least 2 more games, and Knicks don't have to play until Wednesday. So they're going to be very well rested, maybe too rested by the time that game rolls around, whoever they end up playing. But regardless, I'm going to take the team out of the West, so I'll say losing 6 to 7
Yeah, the
games.
Western Conference champion will be heavy favorites in that series. The Knicks, is pretty cool to see them back where they are. All right, so 53% feel like they'll lose in a 6 or 7 game series no matter the opponent. And the final poll results from today. If you were the Knicks, who would you rather face in the finals? OKC, 56%. High-octane offense, or the Spurs, a defensive presence with 44%. I don't think I'd rather face Oklahoma City than San Antonio.
Yeah, especially in light of last night. But you know what? I'll default to the voters here. I don't know well enough. I should do like other sports guys and just pretend like I know, but I'll just say I don't know matchup wise who's the better matchup for them. I don't know that, and that does matter. So maybe San Antonio is a better or worse matchup. I'm not entirely sure. OKC's the defending champions, though. Both are extremely tough outs, and I think the finals ought to be great. I mean, I hope it is. If not, That'll just be a real shame because there's a lot of excitement coming out of New York, and it seems like it could be better, though. You get the Knicks and then San Antonio and Oklahoma City. Well, not like tiny cities by any means. It's just like you couldn't have had LA or, just some executive somewhere's bitching about that. But I think both are great. I'm picking a team out of the West to win, whoever it is. So, I don't know enough about the matchups to say definitively on this.
All right, Greg Sankey apparently has talked about the Cruz Cantwell bill, but it's an audio version, so I don't see any quotes. We'll have more on that. Plus, of course, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, Joey McGuire. And then Rich Rodriguez will be at spring meetings up in Frisco, and we'll have some coverage on that. Rez, wonderful, incredible, man. No one knows what you had to kind of change up along the way today, and you did it very well for Garrett and Andrew, and for also Logan and Houston.
I've got a Greg Sankey quote, but it's exactly what you expected. It was because of my schedule today, I've not had a chance to digest the bill. I'll have a statement that acknowledges and thanks the senators involved. So, he hasn't had a chance to read it all, which is kind of what we were talking about earlier. So not a surprise there, but I'm sure we'll hear plenty more in the days to come.
How about this one on that? Greg Sankey to Feinbaum. It's not that long ago this conversation was about a skinny bill in the Senate. I think we could all agree a 111-page bill is not skinny. So there we are. And we had a super chat.
I think we can also agree that if you guys had handled your business, not necessarily you specifically, Greg Sankey, because there were predecessors, but if your predecessors had handled their business, you wouldn't need any bill. You would have already had this settled decades ago.
All right, here's the super chat, and it is from our good friend, your pet cat again. When the Braves came into Atlanta, we were Milwaukee. They were in the National League West, and of course, they have flipped now back to where they are in the East. Back in the day, Milwaukee Braves. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for those of you who give us your time. For Craig Smoke, I'm David Smoke. We're back again tomorrow at 3 with a really good guest lineup. Hope you'll be there to join us when that time comes. This is the Smoke Show on 365 Sports, and good night.